Chapter 436. No one knew what Chu Kuangren had gained during his 3 years of closed-door meditation, other than gaining insight into the heavenly punishment seal. No one knew that even though he did not have any spiritual power, he was still able to easily cast his unparalleled runic techniques. However, Elder Ruyan and the others knew. The invincible and high-spirited Chu Kuangren had returned. When the Black Heaven sect disciples saw the sky full of runes, their faces were filled with excitement. Some of them could not help but have tears in their eyes. He's back. The sect leader is back. I knew it. How could a stupid seal stop the sect leader? With how powerful he is, he'll definitely become an emperor in the future. That's right. Compared to the Black Heaven sect disciples' excitement, Lu Yiqing and Yin Li, who were locked in a stone prison by the runic halo, looked at the sky outside in disbelief. Even with the heavenly punishment seal on his body, he still has such powerful techniques. Is this the Chu Kuangren who shocked the world 3 years ago? Lu Yiqing murmured. Before he came here, he was very unconvinced. But now he finally saw the huge gap between him and Chu Kuangren. No wonder Yao Rao admired this person so much. No wonder the world can't forget about him. Lu Yiqing smiled bitterly. Beside him, Yin Li sat in a corner. His already pale face had turned even paler after the injury. However, he remembered something. The Divine Predictor Pavilion's first place on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard has been empty for 3 years. Rumor has it that the Divine Predictor purposely left that spot for Chu Kuangren. Now that I think about it, it's very likely that this is the case. If he can still have such powerful techniques even after being sealed, how will he shock the world once he's unsealed? The first place on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, who else could it be but him? Yin Li said emotionally. No matter how dissatisfied he was, it all disappeared in the face of such a huge gap in strength. The countless runes in the sky slowly dissipated. Not long after, tap tap, a series of footsteps came from outside the stone prison. Chu Kuangren came to the front of the stone prison and looked at the two with a playful expression. You two have the guts to barge into the Black Heaven sect with your cultivation level. TSK, you two sure have guts. If it weren't for you, no one in the Black Heaven sect would be able to stop us. Lu Yiqing said. It was true. Although the two of them had yet to become sages, their combat strength was comparable to a 7th-step sage or even a great sage. Coupled with some trump cards such as Yin Li's Black Veil, no one in the entire Black Heaven sect could stop them. At least no one could kill them. However, they did not expect Chu Kuangren, who was under the heavenly punishment seal, to possess such a mysterious runic technique. He could mobilize the power of thousands of runes without the need for spiritual energy. At this thought, Lu Yiqing could not help but be curious. All rune techniques require spiritual power to activate. How did you do it? Oh, you mean this? Chu Kuangren snapped his fingers and a rune condensed in front of him. It turned into a ball of lightning and struck a boulder beside him, shattering it into pieces. Lu Yiqing and Zhang Xian looked at each other and confirmed that the other party had not used any spiritual power. The runes were formed from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren had a way to mobilize the spiritual qi of heaven and earth without using his spiritual power. This was one of the rewards that Chu Kuangren had gained from his closed-door meditation. He was able to use his spiritual thoughts to mobilize the spiritual qi of the heavens and earth, and condense them into thousands of runes. This was something that only Chu Kuangren, who possessed the talent of conjurer techniques and had gained insights into the Elysium Emperor scripture, could do. The heavenly punishment seal was not entirely a bad thing. At least it allowed him to develop many techniques that were related to telekinesis, so his talent as a conjurer did not go to waste. Moreover, the strength of his spiritual thoughts had continued to improve during the process of gaining insights into the heavenly punishment seal. It had far surpassed the average sage. Even a sage ruler would not be able to compare to him. There were also other rewards. Naturally, Chu Kuangren would not tell Lu Yiqing and Yin Li about these. He only said, "There's no point in killing you two. How about this? Is there anyone who can come and save you? I'll help you inform them and have them prepare a ransom." Whether it was Lu Yiqing or Yin Li, both of them were insignificant characters to Chu Kuangren. It did not matter whether he killed them or not. It was better to think about how he could use them. Ransom? There are countless treasures in my Parch Prime Palace. As long as you let me go, I'll definitely send them to you. Lu Yiqing's eyes lit up. Being imprisoned, he had no choice but to bow down. I know of an emperor's opportunity of fortune. As long as you let me go, I'll share it with you, Ainli immediately said. He did not join any forces, so that was the only bargaining chip he could exchange for. As for his boundary emperor weapon, it had long been confiscated by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren stroked his chin. Let you go? Stop joking. If you run away, who am I going to ask for the ransom? What do you want then? Write a letter, and I'll personally go to Parch Prime Palace to collect the ransom. As for that emperor's opportunity of fortune of yours, tell me what's going on now. Whether I let you go or not depends on the situation, Chu Kuangren said. When the two heard this, their expressions changed indeterminately. With that, Chu Kuangren had the upper hand. All right, I'll write it. Lu Yiqing nodded. He had no other choice but to do as Chu Kuangren said. Ainli also told Chu Kuangren about the emperor's opportunity of fortune that he knew. As for whether it was true or not, Chu Kuangren would verify it himself. After receiving the letter and obtaining the opportunity of fortune, Chu Kuangren took out a red scarf and threw it out. The scarf instantly turned into a red light barrier that sealed the entire stone prison. That was the 9 profound heavens fire barrier that the Acheron Manor Lord used to seal the Black Heaven sect. After the great battle, it landed on the battlefield and was retrieved by the Black Heaven sect. Since it was a boundary emperor weapon, there was no way the two of them could escape from it. Chu Kuangren only left after he was done with that. Black Heaven sect. Outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation. For the past 3 years, many people had been lingering around the Great Formation, hoping to obtain some opportunities of fortune from it. And this was not impossible. The great battle 3 years ago was too brutal. Countless cultivators died, including many sages. The items left behind by these people were scattered all over the battlefield. Even the Black Heaven sect might not be able to find all of them. Later on, someone found a supreme weapon at the outer perimeter of the astonishing cloud of seas formation. When news of that spread, it attracted many cultivators, and it gradually became a gold rush. Many people were willing to risk their lives to enter the astonishing cloud of seas formation in search of opportunities of fortune. Although some people managed to find something, many lost their lives as well. Oldly, did you find anything today? At the outer perimeter of the astonishing cloud of seas formation, a middle-aged cultivator asked someone who had just returned from the formation. Oldly pouted. I've been searching the outer perimeter for half a day, and only found a few soulstones. What bad luck. It's been 3 years and most of the good stuff has been picked up by others. I plan to leave after some time. The middle-aged cultivator said with a smile. Me too. What's wrong with you? Oldly sighed helplessly. Then he realized that the middle-aged man in front of him seemed to have seen something unbelievable. His eyes were wide open as he stared behind him. He turned around curiously and saw 2 women and a man slowly walking out from behind him. Chapter 437. Astonishing Cloud of Seas Formation. In the periphery, dozens of cultivators were dumbfounded as they looked at the 2 women and 1 man walking towards them. Their eyes were filled with indescribable shock. Even after the 2 women and 1 man left, everyone was still in a daze. That person just now was. Oldly was so stuttering that he couldn't speak. It's definitely him. The middle-aged cultivator spoke in a powerful voice. He looked in the direction that the man had left with an indescribable excitement on his face. It really is him. But wasn't it rumored that this person had already been sealed by Tian Fa? Why would he still dare to walk out of the astonishing cloud of seas formation? Apart from being shocked, Oldly was also puzzled. Why not? He's Chu Kuangren we're talking about. There's nothing he wouldn't dare to do. That middle-aged cultivator said excitedly. Oldly looked at the middle-aged cultivator in surprise. He did not expect her to be a fan of Chu Kuangren. Firmament Star Divine Predictor Pavilion. This was a residence built 3 years ago by the Four Seas Trading Company's #1 Divine Predictor. Divine Predictor. 3 years ago, Tianjizi divined the heavenly mysteries and created the world-shaking hidden dragon, ranking in one fell swoop. spreading the name of the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries to the world. A golden list hung in front of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. That was the world-famous Hidden Dragon list. The passers-by on the streets could see this list when they raised their heads. This list was created by Tianjizi's connection with the power of heaven's secrets, so it could be changed at any time. All the geniuses in the world took pride in being ranked on the Hidden Dragon roll. If they were able to obtain a high ranking, then their name could easily shake the world. In a restaurant not far from the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, some people were gathered together, drinking while discussing the world's major events. Among them, the topic most discussed was the Heaven's Prides. 2 days ago, I heard that the 4th ranker on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, Wang Tianting, fought with Xiao Lintian from the Heavenly Golden Palace. I heard that Wang Tianting defeated Xiao Lintian in less than 10 moves. This incident has shaken the world. Tisk tsk, Xiao Lintian has the Heavenly Golden Imperial physique, and is ranked 11th on the Hidden Dragon list. I didn't expect him to be so weak in the hands of Wang Tianting. It seems that there is still a huge gap between the top 10 geniuses and the rest of the geniuses on the Hidden Dragon list. Yeah, the Heavenly Golden Palace has been humiliated this time. I heard that Xiao Jingchen has announced that there will be a fight if he meets Wang Tianting. If the two of them were to fight, it would be hard to tell who would be the stronger one. I'm sure it will be very exciting. Sigh, the world now belongs to these geniuses. Even the sages of the older generation have to avoid them. Everyone was conversing. Some people looked at the Hidden Dragon roll outside the street and looked at the names of the geniuses on it with envy. Suddenly, that person's expression changed slightly, and he rubbed his eyes before exclaiming, "Look, there's a change on the Hidden Dragon rankings." At first, no one paid much attention to it. After all, in this era, geniuses rose together. Today, it was either someone who defeated someone or someone who was defeated or even killed by someone else. The Hidden Dragon list was not static, it could change at any time. Even the top 10 geniuses had changed several times. Let me see whose ranking has changed, a cultivator said. He looked up from the last name, but the name was the same as before, without any changes. There's no change. Call me. Before he finished speaking, that person's gaze fell on the top spot of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. In the past, he would not have looked at that spot, because for the past 3 years that spot had been empty. But now that spot was filled with rays of golden light. The rays of golden light intertwined in Taoist rhymes circulated. It was as if a person's name was about to appear on the paper. Everyone could not help but exclaim at this discovery. They stared at the top spot of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard, not daring to blink. Oh my God, the Hidden Dragon leaderboard that hasn't changed in the past 3 years has changed. Who's the first? Didn't the divine predictor say that he's waiting for someone? Why is there a change all of a sudden? Could it be that the person he's waiting for has appeared? Who's the one who can surpass all the other geniuses and become the first? Everyone stared at the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. The change in the Hidden Dragon leaderboard naturally attracted the attention of many great ones in the firmament star, and they all looked at it curiously. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, the first name of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard finally took shape, forming into 3 huge golden words. It was a name that everyone in the world was familiar with but had not heard for a long time. Chu Kuangren. When the 3 words Chu Kuangren were formed, everyone in the world was speechless. No one knew what to say. The name Chu Kuangren was too familiar to everyone in the world. However, because they were too familiar with him, they had thought that anyone could reach the top of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard but not this person. After all, this person had the Heavenly Punishment seal on him. With the Heavenly Punishment seal and his cultivation base sealed, how could a person like him reach the top of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard? How can it be him? How can it be him? This is impossible. Did the divine predictor make a mistake? This is too reckless. No matter how much the divine predictor admires Chu Kuangren, he can't possibly place him at the top of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. On the street, everyone was talking about it. Divine predictor, what's going on? A voice suddenly came from the sky. It was one of the great ones in the firmament star asking. I need an explanation as well. Another mighty figure asked a question. Divine predictor, Chu Kuangren has the Heavenly Punishment seal on him. How can he be placed at the top of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard? Don't you think you should say something? That's right. Anyone can be the top, but not him. Divine Predictor, you're committing a grave sin. One by one, the great ones who were rarely seen questioned the Divine Predictor. All of this was because of a name that the world could not forget but could not tolerate. The crowd heard the great one's words. For some reason, they could sense a strange emotion in the great one's tone. It seemed like panic. Were these great ones panicking? Everyone was in disbelief at this discovery. It's just a name. Is it worth it? Someone muttered. Someone beside him replied. It's because that person is Chu Kuangren. He represents an era. Inside the Divine Predictor Pavilion, faced with the Great One's questioning, the Divine Predictor said, "This is what I learned from my divination. If you're not satisfied, go ask the heavens." All the mighty figures were rendered speechless. Ask the heavens? How? They did not know how to communicate with the heavenly Tao. Just as the Great Ones were questioning the Divine Predictor, another piece of news came. Chu Kuangren had left the Black Heaven sect. The Great Ones were even more perturbed now. He's out. How dare he come out? There are countless people who want him dead. He's carrying the heavenly punishment seal. Instead of staying in the formation, he dared to come out. He's digging his own grave. The Hidden Dragon leaderboard is just an empty title. That's right. The group of powerful beings said before disappearing. As for what they would do next, no one knew. But one thing was for sure. They would not sit idly by and do nothing about Chu Kuangren. It was laughable. Chu Kuangren was supposed to be a cripple to everyone. However, when he reappeared after disappearing for 3 years, he was still the center of everyone's attention. Just his name alone was enough to make countless people restless and cause chaos in the world. On this day, Chu Kuangren walked out of the astonishing cloud of C's formation and reached the top of the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. Chapter 438. News of Chu Kuangren's return to the realm spread like wildfire across the world. Countless forces and organizations had received the news. Even though they knew that Chu Kuangren had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal and his cultivation base had been sealed, his return to the realm still attracted many people's attention. No one dared to ignore him. Heavenly Golden Palace. A terrifying aura emanated from the palace on top of a mountain. A young man slowly walked out. He was dressed in a golden robe and had a powerful aura around him. It was Xiao Lintian. He was also the second Sky Pride in the Heavenly Golden Palace. Chu Kuangren, you're finally out. If that's the case, then don't blame me. I'll pay you back for the humiliation you gave me back then. With that, his figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Except for Xiao Lintian. The rest of the Sky Prides had more or less made their moves, especially those who had lived under Chu Kuangren's shadow 3 years ago. Everyone in the world was looking for Chu Kuangren. But where was Chu Kuangren now? He had come to the Royal Azure Dynasty. To be more precise, he had followed Gu Linglong to the Royal Azure Dynasty. This time he was here to visit his family. After all, Gu Linglong had been in the Black Heaven sect for 3 years and had not seen her father for 3 years. However, what Gu Linglong had seen and heard along the way had infuriated her. Her expression was as cold as ice along the way. At this time, the people of the Royal Azure Dynasty were homeless and starving. Bandits were everywhere, and voices of rebellion against the royal family could be heard everywhere. There was no sign of the prosperity that she had seen before she left. In a certain city of the Royal Azure Dynasty, a group of bandits was robbing a batch of goods that the soldiers were escorting. The soldiers were powerless against them, so they either fled or died. "Boss, it's the green jasper." One of the bandits opened a box. The box was filled with green jade stones with strange patterns that had an inexplicable Taoist rhymes flowing on them. One box of green jasper was worth 1,000,000 top-tier soul stones. This time, the bandits had seized a total of 30 chests. 30 million top-tier soul stones was not a small amount. Some orthodoxies might not even be able to gather such a sum even if they emptied their pockets. Damn it, these bastards. The boss of the bandits was a middle-aged man with a scar on his face. Not only was he not happy at all when he saw these green pattern jaspers, he even cursed. So many green pattern jaspers. Just how many orthodoxies did they plunder to get their hands on them? And how many smaller orthodoxies were destroyed because of these jaspers? This royal family is getting more and more shameless. The scarred man cursed. He ordered his men to pack up these things and prepared to leave. However, at this moment a few figures appeared in front of them. They were a man and two women, and all of them were stunning beauties. Among them, a beautiful woman in a fiery red robe looked at them with a cold look in her eyes. According to the laws of the dynasty, plundering the property of the royal family is punishable by death. Do you know your crimes? The gorgeous woman said coldly. Hearing her words, the expressions of the bandits changed slightly. They quickly took out their weapons and prepared themselves. The scarred man said, "Humph, so you're the dogs of the royal family. The royal family has committed many evil deeds, causing the common people to suffer. All the orthodoxies are complaining about it. What we're robbing is exactly what you're talking about." The woman replied indifferently. The royal family of the royal Azure dynasty and the orthodoxies in the country have always minded their own business. As long as the orthodoxies don't break the law, the royal family won't do anything to them. What do you mean by complaints? Stop pretending. If you want to fight, then cut the crap. The scarred man snorted. At this moment, a man beside the scarred man looked at the gorgeous woman and said, "Boss, this woman looks familiar. I think she's Her Majesty Linglong." The scarred man's expression changed. Her Majesty Linglong? Didn't she go to the Black Heaven sect? Why is she here? Are you sure you're not mistaken? It's definitely her. A few years ago, when I was in the capital city, I saw Her Majesty from afar. She looks exactly like her. The scarred man's expression changed as he looked at Gu Linglong. In the royal Azure dynasty, Empress Linglong could be said to be the most legendary ruler. She was one of the few rulers who ascended to the throne as a woman. She ascended to the throne while the crown prince was still alive. Moreover, she was very skillful. Under her management, the royal Azure dynasty was in good order. It could be said that the river was peaceful and the sea was peaceful. However, 3 years ago, this legendary empress abdicated her throne less than a year after her ascension to the throne. She headed to the Black Heaven sect to accompany her husband, who was renowned throughout the world and could be said to be the most powerful person in history. "I am the former leader of the Frenzied Saber sect. By long greetings, Your Majesty." The scarred man walked up to Gu Linglong and suddenly knelt down. Gu Linglong was taken aback by the sudden turn of events. "What's the meaning of this? Your Majesty, please come back and take charge of the situation," Bai Long said with a solemn expression. "Tell me what happened." "Your Majesty, after you left and participated in the battle with the Black Heaven sect, the head of the Yun family became the new ruler of the royal Azure dynasty. After that, in order to befriend the craggy ocean tower, he kept extorting the wealth of the people to pay tribute to the craggy ocean tower. The entire royal Azure dynasty is now in a precarious situation." Bai Long narrated the matter in detail. After listening, Gu Linglong's expression darkened. "Regarding this matter, I will personally investigate it when I return to the palace. If it's true, I will not ignore it." After understanding the current situation of the royal Azure dynasty, Gu Linglong could not just sit back and watch. The few of them hurried to the capital city of the royal Azure dynasty. In the royal Azure palace, a white-haired old man was fiddling with a piece of jade. In front of him were boxes of treasures. Each box was worth a fortune, and each box was looted from countless people. Next to the old man was a middle-aged man dressed in an imperial robe. This man was the current ruler of the royal Azure dynasty, Yun Changfeng. The Yun family used to be the #1 family in the royal Azure dynasty. After the battle with the Black Heaven sect, Yun Changfeng took the opportunity to join the Craggy Ocean Tower. He used the Craggy Ocean Tower's power to take over the royal Azure dynasty and ascend to the throne. "Elder, what do you think of the tribute this time?" Not bad, not bad." The white-haired old man nodded. "Elder, about the matter that I mentioned last time." Yun Changfeng smiled flatteringly without the slightest hint of an emperor's nobility. "You've done well recently. Here, take it." The white-haired old man took out a bottle of medicinal pills and tossed it to Yun Changfeng. "Thank you, Elder. Thank you, Elder. This medicinal pill can strengthen your bestial soul. It won't take long before no one below the sage realm is your match," the white-haired old man said. Yun Changfeng was overjoyed. In the past few years, he had joined the craggy ocean tower. After spending countless efforts and countless tributes, he finally obtained the craggy ocean bestial soul that he had always dreamed of. This medicinal pill was the secret medicine of the craggy ocean tower. It could be used to strengthen his bestial soul and improve his strength. Your Highness, bad news. At that moment, an imperial guard suddenly rushed in with a panicked look on his face. Upon seeing his reaction, Yun Changfeng said in dissatisfaction, "What's the matter? Can't you see that the elder is here too? This is unbecoming." Your Highness, Her Highness has returned. Your Highness? Isn't Your Highness right here? What nonsense are you spouting? Yun Changfeng's expression darkened. No, Your Highness, it's Her Highness Linglong who has returned. And beside her is Chu Kuangren. Chapter 439. She's following Chu Kuangren. The Imperial Guard stuttered. When he mentioned Chu Kuangren's name, his eyes were filled with fear. The elder who had been playing with the jade stone at the side and did not take Gu Linglong seriously was shocked. The jade stone in his hand unconsciously fell to the ground, and with a crack, it broke into a few pieces. Chu Kuangren is here. Why is he here? The white-haired elder and Yun Changfeng panicked. The Imperial Guard beside them could not help but mutter to himself, "Since you've taken over his wife's home, how could he not come to seek justice? Oh right. Quick, bring Gu Qing and the others out." Yun Changfeng hurriedly said as if he had thought of something. Gu Qing was Gu Linglong's father. After taking over the royal Azure dynasty, Yun Changfeng did not kill Gu Qing and the others. Instead, he forced them to consume some kind of secret medicine to lose their combat strength and imprison them. He initially thought that they would come in handy one day. However, he did not expect that day to come so soon. Don't worry, Elder. Chu Kuangren has the heavenly punishment seal on him, so he's not a threat. We only need to deal with Gu Linglong. Yun Changfeng looked at the elder beside him and said. The elder gradually calmed down and forced a smile on his face. That's right. Chu Kuangren is no longer a threat. Although he said that, he was still a little anxious. After all, that was Chu Kuangren. Inside the palace, tens of thousands of imperial guards were surrounding 3 people. These 3 people were Chu Kuangren and his 2 companions. The one walking at the front was Chu Kuangren. He was dressed in a snow-white robe with a beautiful long sword hanging on his waist. His posture was calm as he walked towards the palace hall. The tens of thousands of imperial guards retreated again and again, not daring to step forward. Even though they knew that this person in front of them did not have any spiritual power fluctuations and could not use any spiritual power, they still did not dare to step forward. The tens of thousands of imperial guards were forced to retreat by an ordinary person who did not have any spiritual power fluctuations. It was an unbelievable scene. Chu Kuangren, this is the palace hall. You shall not be so presumptuous here. One of the imperial guards shouted. Unlike the others, he was promoted by Yun Changfeng and was loyal to the royal family. Chu Kuangren turned a deaf ear to him and did not even look at him. After being ignored, that person seemed to become angry out of humiliation. He pulled out the long saber at his waist and his spirit force surged as he fiercely swung it. However, before the long sword could land on Chu Kuangren, a white ray of light shot out and landed on the general's body. In an instant, the general was blasted nearly 100 feet away like a cannonball and smashed into the palace wall. Chu Kuangren, Gu Linglong, both of you stop. At this moment a cold shout was heard. Yun Changfeng and the elder from the craggy ocean tower walked out. The moment they saw Chu Kuangren, a trace of fear flashed across their eyes. However, when they saw that there was no trace of spiritual power fluctuations on him, they could not help but let out a sigh of relief and a smile blossomed on their faces. Chu Kuangren, I can't believe you actually dared to walk out of the Black Heaven sect's boundary. As for Gu Linglong, if you didn't return, I wouldn't have done anything to you. But I can't believe you're so stupid as to return. Yun Changfeng said with a smile, as if victory was already in his grasp. As he raised his hand, a ferocious bestial soul beast appeared above his head. If that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Without another word, the bestial soul beast charged towards Gu Linglong. Beside her, Chu Kuangren glanced at her and said, Oh, I didn't expect her to be from the craggy ocean tower. Facing the incoming bestial soul beast, a long saber appeared in Gu Linglong's hand. The blade of the saber was engraved with the image of a bright moon. With a slash of the saber, a crescent-shaped saber ray flashed past. The bestial soul beast howled in pain as it was sliced in half on the spot. The strength of that attack had reached the peak of a boundary sage. During the 3 years that Gu Linglong had been in the Black Heaven sect, she did not just focus on cooking. Her strength had also improved tremendously. In fact, she was not much weaker than the Sky Prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. What? Yun Chongfeng's expression changed drastically. He did not expect the craggy ocean bestial soul that he had painstakingly obtained to be destroyed by Gu Linglong with a single slash. The gap between them was just too huge. How dare a traitor like you spout such nonsense? Gu Linglong said coldly. Elder, please help me. Yun Chongfeng knew that he was no match for Gu Linglong, so he quickly sought help from the craggy ocean tower's elder beside him. The white-haired elder glanced at Gu Linglong. Humph, she's just a little girl who's not even a sage. If I want to deal with her, it'll be a piece of cake. Don't you worry. As he spoke, he slowly raised his hand, and a surge of domineering Taoist rhyme emanated. In an instant, a giant golden eagle appeared in the void. That was his craggy ocean bestial soul, which already possessed the strength of a sage. If you dare make a move, not only you, but the entire craggy ocean tower will suffer. At that moment, Chu Kuangren finally spoke. His words caused the elder's expression to change drastically. Then, as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world, he could not help but laugh out loud. Chu Kuangren, what nonsense are you talking about? Do you still think that you're the invincible lunatic from 3 years ago? With the heavenly punishment seal in your body, you can't even muster the slightest bit of spiritual power now. How much stronger can you be compared to an ordinary person? Bring disaster to the craggy ocean tower? Stop joking around. Do you think those forces that surrounded the Black Heaven sect back then will let you go so easily? In a few days you'll be in deep trouble. As soon as the white-haired elder finished speaking, he maneuvered the giant golden eagle to fly towards Chu Kuangren with a surging aura. He planned to kill Chu Kuangren first. Fortune and misfortune come to us all. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said. Then, he raised his hand and used his spiritual thoughts to gather the surrounding spiritual qi into lines of runes. The runes then converged into a golden greatsword that emanated an endless amount of power. When the runic greatsword was unleashed, its terrifying aura instantly tore the giant golden eagle into two. Meanwhile, the white-haired elder was swept away by the sword qi, and was sent flying into the great hall behind him. How is this possible? Could he have broken the heavenly punishment seal? The white-haired elder was terrified. If Chu Kuangren had broken the seal, then even 10 of him would not be enough to defeat him. At that thought, the white-haired elder no longer had the intention to fight Chu Kuangren. He broke through the dome of the great hall and flew into the distance. He wanted to escape. Chu Kuangren chuckled and then slowly stretched out his hand. With his 5 fingers spread out, it was as if the entire world was in his palm. An invisible mind power spread out and seemed to have transformed into an invisible giant hand that grabbed the white-haired elder in midair. Escape? Do you think you can escape from my grasp? Chu Kuangren said as he clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. The white-haired elder did not even have the time to wail before he exploded into a cloud of blood mist in midair. This scene made everyone's scalp go numb. From the beginning to the end, they did not feel the slightest bit of spiritual power from Chu Kuangren. They had no idea what kind of method he used to kill the white-haired elder. And this unknown made everyone shudder with fear. Chapter 440. The white-haired elder was crushed by Chu Kuangren's telekinesis. Blood mist exploded like a blossoming flower. Everyone at the scene felt their scalps tingle in disbelief, especially Yun Chongfeng, who was so scared that his face turned pale. Impossible, this is impossible. Weren't you sealed? How can you have such power? At that moment, a few soldiers escorted a few people into the hall. Those people were dressed in prison uniforms, and their auras were extremely weak. Gu Linglong's expression changed drastically when she saw them. Father. Those people were Linglong's father and a few of her brothers. Yun Chongfeng immediately rushed towards Gu Qing and the others as if he had just seen a life-saving straw and placed it on their necks. Gu Linglong, Chu Kuangren, both of you better surrender now. Otherwise, I'll kill them both. Chu Kuangren's eyes turned cold when he heard that. I've never seen anyone as stupid as you. He then slowly walked towards the palace hall. Every step he took was like stepping on the hearts of Yun Changfeng and the others, causing their hearts to beat violently. A huge wave of fear engulfed them. Chu Kuangren, don't come any closer. Stay back. Otherwise, I'll really kill them. Yun Changfeng roared hysterically. Even so, Chu Kuangren did not stop in his tracks. Go ahead and kill them. If you dare to kill them, then go ahead. But I can guarantee you that if you kill them, your entire Yun family will be subjected to the cruelest punishment in this world. I guarantee that you will all suffer a fate worse than death. As Chu Kuangren spoke, his tone was like a cold wind from the 9 netherworlds. It was bone-chilling, and everyone at the scene could not help but shudder. Yun Changfeng's arm trembled uncontrollably as he gripped his saber. He did not dare to do it. He was afraid that if he killed Gu Qing and the others, there would be no turning back. He was afraid that it would be as Chu Kuangren had said, that the entire Yun family would fall into endless torture because of his actions. He knew that Chu Kuangren definitely had the ability to do it. Why don't you kill them? Chu Kuangren had already walked in front of Yun Changfeng and the others. With a cold roar, an indescribable domineering aura emanated from his body. Yun Changfeng's body trembled as if he had encountered the power of the heavens, and he immediately knelt on the ground. I beg of you, please spare the Yun family. Yun Changfeng, who was threatening Chu Kuangren just a moment ago, was now kowtowing and begging for mercy. Your fates will be decided by others. This was an internal affair of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Chu Kuangren planned to let Gu Linglong handle it herself. Those who surrender will not be killed. Gu Linglong turned around and shouted at the tens of thousands of imperial guards. Everyone put down their weapons and knelt down in a black mass. Even Yun Changfeng had knelt. What else could they do to resist? Father, are you all right? Gu Linglong looked at Gu Qing and the others. I am fine. However, Yun Changfeng gave us a secret medicine that makes it impossible for us to utilize our cultivation bases, Gu Qing said. Where is the antidote? Gu Linglong looked at Yun Changfeng and said coldly. Yun Changfeng didn't dare resist. He obediently handed over the antidote, hoping that Gu Linglong would be merciful enough to spare the Yun family. Men, take him away, Gu Linglong said coldly. After curing Gu Qing and the others, the Royal Azure Dynasty was once again under the control of the Gu family. Quelling the chaos had been accomplished without the loss of a single soldier. What came next was much easier. Gu Linglong regained control of the Royal Azure Dynasty under the escort of her ministers. She then began to reorganize the internal affairs of the Royal Azure Dynasty and repair the broken empire. This was bound to be a long process. 3 years. 3 years was neither a long nor short time, but it was enough for Yun Changfeng to wreak havoc in the entire dynasty. It would not be something that could be done in a short period of time. Gu Linglong still had a lot of things to do. In the palace garden, Gu Linglong was dressed in an imperial robe. She looked at Chu Kuangren apologetically. Husband, I wish to stay here. Yes, I understand. The Royal Azure Dynasty is in turmoil now. With your abilities, staying here is the best choice. Chu Kuangren smiled. He wasn't surprised by Gu Linglong's decision. He knew that Gu Linglong wasn't the kind of person who only cared about relationships. Her heart was still filled with the righteousness of the country. Now that the Royal Azure Dynasty was rife with bandits, the country was in turmoil, and the people had lost their homes. The dynasty needed a strong leader to rectify the situation, and Gu Linglong was the perfect candidate. For the next few days, Chu Kuangren stayed in the capital city. Naturally, the fact that he was in the Royal Azure Dynasty could not be hidden from the eyes of the people who were looking for him. People from all over the world rushed to the Royal Azure Dynasty. In a restaurant in the capital city, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu were sitting by the window. At that moment, someone walked into the restaurant. It was a handsome young man. The moment he walked into the restaurant, he locked onto Chu Kuangren's position and walked up to him. Everyone in this world is looking for you, Brother Chu. Yet you still have the leisure to sit here and drink. I'm impressed. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. Who are you? The handsome young man wasn't annoyed. Instead, he smiled and said, I'm Craggy Ocean Towers Yuan Xian. I've long been fascinated by you, Brother Chu. Who gave you the guts to call me Brother Chu? Even your sect leader had to treat me as an equal, let alone you. Yuan Xian's expression froze when he heard that. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said lightly, Sect leader Chu, I won't waste any more time. I've come to find you today for one thing. That is, please return the Mountain River Scroll to me. The Mountain River Scroll? Chu Kuangren had some recollection of it. It was a Boundary Emperor weapon used by the craggy Ocean Tower Lord during the Black Heaven Sect War 3 years ago. It contained a large number of bestial souls of mutated beasts, and it was one of the most important resources of the craggy Ocean Tower. Back then, the craggy Ocean Tower Lord joined forces with the others to attack the Black Heaven Sect. I haven't even settled the score with you guys, yet you guys have come knocking on my door. How dare you ask me for the Mountain River Scroll? Your skin is thicker than the craggy Ocean Tower. Chu Kuangren couldn't help but chuckle. Sect leader Chu, I hope you can see the situation clearly. You're no longer who you used to be. Do you still want to resist? Yuan Xian said calmly. Inside the restaurant, most of the people had already left. Aside from Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, and Yuan Xian, only 2 elders were left. Their auras were locked onto Chu Kuangren. It was obvious that they were not friendly toward Chu Kuangren either. Both of them were from the craggy Ocean Tower. If you guys dare to attack me, go ahead and try. Chu Kuangren said calmly. There was not a single trace of spiritual power fluctuation on his body, but neither Yuan Xian nor the 2 craggy Ocean Tower sages dared to act recklessly. On the contrary, they had a serious look on their faces. Haha, no wonder you're the legendary Chu Kuangren. Even with the heavenly punishment seal on your body, you're still so arrogant. A burst of laughter was heard as a black-robed cultivator walked in. That cultivator had a sinister demonic qi circulating around his body. Chu Kuangren recognized him at first glance. Oh, the people from Acheron Manor are here too. It's Zhang Miao from Acheron Manor. The black-robed cultivator, Zhang Miao, sneered and looked at Chu Kuangren playfully. Chapter 441. Acheron Manor's Zhang Miao and craggy Ocean Tower's Yuan Xian were both sky prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard and enjoyed great fame. Now that they had teamed up to look for Chu Kuangren, it was naturally not just for a chat. On Firmament Star, many great ones were looking for Chu Kuangren. They also knew that Chu Kuangren was in the Royal Azure Dynasty. Therefore, when Yuan Xian and Zhang Miao came to look for Chu Kuangren, many people were already paying attention to what would happen next. Chu Kuangren, I'm here for the same reason as Yuan Xian. Please return Acheron Manor's Blood Dragon Claw and 9 Profound Heaven's Fire Barrier. Zhang Miao said. Compared to craggy Ocean Tower, Acheron Manor had suffered more losses. A total of 2 quasi-emperor weapons. Interesting. Acheron Manor, craggy Ocean Tower, you guys are the first ones to come to me. Alright, let's cut the crap and come at me together. I still need to go back for dinner later. Chu Kuangren said casually. When the 2 of them heard this, they looked at each other in bewilderment. Did Chu Kuangren really have the confidence to deal with them? Humph, I'd like to see how you're going to deal with a person who's been sealed by the heavenly punishment seal without the slightest bit of spiritual power. Without another word, Zhang Miao made the first move. As he opened his palm, a cold and sinister Taoist rhyme circulated and turned into a pale skeletal claw. Accompanied by an eerie gust of wind, it grabbed at Chu Kuangren. The moment Zhang Miao made his move, Yuan Xian glared at Chu Kuangren and channeled his spiritual power, ready to attack at any time. Not only him, but the great ones who were secretly observing were also paying close attention. This was an important opportunity to determine whether Chu Kuangren had broken the seal or not, so they could not afford to miss it. The skeletal claw reached out, but Chu Kuangren was still sitting on the spot. Suddenly, golden runes appeared in front of him like a magnificent poem, and turned into a runic wall that easily blocked the giant claw. Is this a runic technique? There's no spiritual power. What's going on? The great ones who were secretly observing could not help but be shocked. Meanwhile, Yuan Xian and Zhang Miao stared at Chu Kuangren in shock. When Zhang Miao's skeletal claw was blocked, Yuan Xian and the 2 sages behind him immediately made their moves. 3 Taoist rhymes of the same origin instantly erupted, transforming into 3 ferocious essence soul realm beasts that attacked from 3 different directions. I'm tired of seeing your tricks. Chu Kuangren shook his head. With a lift of his arm, streaks of golden runes condensed into a runic greatsword in the void. With a surge of surging sword-based Taoist rhyme, the greatsword slashed out violently. Gungjin's sword. The incomparably sharp sword qi directly tore apart the three essence soul ferocious beasts that were pouncing over, and the dispersing energy strength qi even sent Yuan Xian and the two sages flying. The entire restaurant was almost cut in half by the sword qi. How could this be? What a powerful rune sword qi. This guy didn't use any spiritual power. How did he do it? Yuan Xian, Zhang Miao, and the others narrowed their eyes. Let's attack again. He doesn't have the slightest fluctuation of spiritual power. It must be because the heavenly punishment seal hasn't been broken yet. Without spiritual power, his battle prowess must be far from what it used to be. Yuan Xian said. Then he activated the mountain and sea origin spirit. A ferocious beast bestial soul with emerald eyes in the shape of a ferocious tiger appeared. It was an ancient ferocious beast, the turquoise-eyed tiger. Although it was not as powerful as the nine-headed snakelet or the serpent, it was still very rare. Beside Yuan Xian, the two sages had also summoned their mountain and sea origin spirits. Suddenly, there were 3 more sages with S-grade combat strength. That was the strongest aspect of the craggy ocean tower cultivators. They had the mountain and sea origin spirits, which was equivalent to double their combat strength. Zheng Miao did not want to be outdone. Eye of Acheron. The Acheron Manor's Emperor technique was instantly unleashed. A gigantic blood-colored eye appeared in the void and turned into a demonic ray that struck out. The 3 great mountain and sea origin spirits and the demonic ray all rushed out. Its vast power caused the surrounding void to tremble, and the entire street to tremble. 5 elemental swords. Chu Kuangren slowly raised his hand. The surrounding spiritual qi surged and turned into 5 different colored rune swords. The majestic 5 elemental sword qi swept out like a violent storm. The so-called Tao of runes was to understand the Taoist rhymes contained in nature, and to summarize their trajectories to form runes. The 5 elemental Tao was also a part of nature. Chu Kuangren could easily condense the 5 elemental runes and integrate them with his own sword-based Taoist rhymes to form these incredibly powerful 5 elemental swords. The 5 elemental sword qi swept across the entire place. The mountain and sea origin spirits and the Acheron demonic ray were easily destroyed, but the 5 elemental sword qi did not shatter. Instead, it surrounded Yuan Xian and the others, sealing off their escape routes. Take care, I won't be sending you off. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and pressed down. The 5 elemental sword qi shuttled back and forth in the void, and in the blink of an eye, it had stabbed the few people at the scene a few times. Screams of agony could be heard. Blood spurted out like arrows. Chu Kuangren, how dare you? Stop! 2 angry roars came from the void. Then 2 surges of Taoist rhymes erupted and locked onto Chu Kuangren's body. It was the wrath of a sage ruler. Although they were not there, their spiritual thoughts could lock onto Chu Kuangren from thousands of kilometers away and warn him. However, Chu Kuangren would not be afraid even if they were standing right in front of him, let alone these 2 puny spiritual thoughts. Chu Kuangren did not care about that at all. The Taoist rhyme that was contained in those 2 surges of spiritual thoughts had no effect on him at all. With just a lift of his arm, Zhang Miao, Yuan Xian, and the 2 sages from the craggy ocean tower were brutally killed by his runic sword qi. He slowly stood up. His tall and slender body was like a divine sword that revealed its sharpness, and his sword-based Taoist rhyme swept across the heavens and earth. I know that all of you have been observing and guessing at me. You want to know if I've broken the heavenly punishment seal? What kind of combat strength can I unleash? There's no need to guess. Why don't you try it yourself? If you don't have the guts to, then wait for me to pay you a visit. When that time comes, all of you will know what kind of strength I have. Especially the orthodoxies that participated in the battle against the Black Heaven sect back then. Please prepare yourselves. Chu Kuangren said to the void. He was issuing a challenge to the few forces that encircled the Black Heaven sect back then. He still remembered what happened back then, so he would not let it slide so easily. The great ones who were observing in the dark were shocked when they heard what he said. Back then, the 6 great unknown lands had joined forces with a 1,000,000-strong cultivator army to encircle the Black Heaven sect. However, Chu Kuangren single-handedly stopped them from leaving the Black Heaven sect. That incident was still fresh in many people's minds. This time, after Chu Kuangren left the Black Heaven sect, he would seek revenge from the 6 great unknown lands one by one. How arrogant! He may have such a strange runic technique, but he's still under the heavenly punishment seal. Although the heavenly golden palace and the other orthodoxies suffered heavy losses back then, they still have a strong foundation. I'm sure that they still have sage rulers among them. If he goes after them, it's no different from seeking death. That's right. Does he still think he's the same maniac from 3 years ago? If he dares to go to the craggy ocean tower, he'll definitely fall. I'd like to see how badly he'll fall. Now that he's out, he's going to wreak havoc in this world. Some were looking forward to it, some were disdainful, and some were lamenting. Meanwhile, orthodoxies like the craggy ocean tower and Acheron Manor were so furious that they were trembling. They even announced that they would never forgive Chu Kuangren. Chapter 442. After killing Yuan Xian and Zhang Miao, Chu Kuangren was ready to leave the royal Azure dynasty. He had many things to do after leaving the Black Heaven sect, and taking revenge on the 6 great unknown lands was only one of them. In just a few days, news of Chu Kuangren announcing that he would seek revenge from the craggy ocean tower, Acheron Manor, and the other top-notch orthodoxies spread like wildfire. Many people were waiting to see what would happen. Everyone knew that although Chu Kuangren had yet to break the heavenly punishment seal, he still had a way to use runic power. The only thing that caught people's attention was how strong was his runic mastery. In the grand hall of the heavenly golden palace, just like 3 years ago, a meeting was held to deal with Chu Kuangren. The sect leaders of the 6 top-notch orthodoxies were gathered together. Chu Kuangren has re-entered the realm. Everyone, there's no turning back now. He must die. The new palace lord of the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Chongqing, said. Like sage ruler Chongqing, the other 5 orthodoxies sect leaders had the same thought. The Acheron Manor lord said, "Killing Chu Kuangren is easier said than done. He has too many tricks up his sleeve." That's right. I thought that he would not be able to recover from the setback of the heavenly punishment seal, but I didn't expect that he would get a strange talisman technique from somewhere. He can activate the power of the talisman without using spiritual power. His strength is not to be underestimated. Just like 3 years ago, he killed saints as easily as killing dogs. There's no spiritual energy on him, so the heavenly punishment seal is not broken. That's for sure. The only thing we need to do now is to figure out how strong he is with this runic technique. How can we kill him if we don't figure that out? Sage ruler Chongqing, the heavenly golden palace has the strongest resources here. Why don't you go ahead and test him out? If you can kill him, that would be great. If not, you should be able to protect yourself with your strength. Sage ruler Chongqing said. The sacred palace of Death's palace lord said. Sage ruler Chongqing was displeased. The sacred palace of Death claims to be above life and death. Why don't you go? Why don't we let Xiao Jingchen go? Isn't he from the 9 heavens? Not only that, but he's also the 3rd-rank Sky Pride on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. If he makes a move, he'll definitely be able to overpower Chu Kuangren and take the 1st-rank spot on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard at the same time. With the blessing of such luck, becoming an emperor is almost guaranteed. The young master is in seclusion and can't participate. They discussed among themselves, but none of them could come up with a good plan. No one wanted to make the first move against Chu Kuangren. That was an existence that couldn't be measured with common sense. Once he made a move, if he didn't have full confidence, he would simply be sending himself to his death. How about this? Since no one wants to make the first move, we'll put up a bounty and have others deal with him on our behalf. Netherworld Manor Lord said indifferently. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. All right, we'll do as you say. Also, Chu Kuangren has 2 emperor weapons with him, but he's currently under the heavenly punishment seal, so he can't use them. If we spread this news, I'm sure many people will be tempted, the bottomless chasm dweller said. Congratulations. Host, you've drawn an immortal special ability, Space Conveyor. High up in the sky, Chu Kuangren was sitting on the elusive mirage and doing his lucky draw. The prize that he drew surprised him quite a bit. God-tier divine ability. This was very rare. After all this time, the number of god-tier prizes he had drawn could be said to be few and far between, but every single one of them had been of great help to him. The immortal body, the eye of revelation, the universal cauldron physique. These were all important things that he relied on in his cultivation journey. Now, he had another god-tier divine ability, the space conveyor. Chu Kuangren took a look at it and realized that this divine ability was mainly targeted towards spatial energy. In simple terms, it overlapped the space and transported an object from one space to another. The object could be a person, an object, or something else. In short, it was a very practical and powerful divine ability. Unfortunately, this divine ability required a powerful cultivation base to activate. Chu Kuangren was still under the heavenly punishment seal, so he couldn't use it yet. There's still one more layer to the 9-layered heavenly punishment seal. With the refining speed of the universal cauldron physique, I guess I'll need another month to completely unseal it. Chu Kuangren murmured as he sensed the heavenly punishment seal within his body. A month was not a long time. 3 years had passed, so 1 month was not a big deal to him. After all, the combat strength that he could unleash with his mind power and runic techniques was not much weaker than 3 years ago. Otherwise, how would he dare to declare revenge on the 6 great orthodoxies? Master, Chitai Mountain is just up ahead. Lan Yu walked up to Chu Kuangren and said with a map in her hand as she looked at the undulating mountains below the elusive mirage. And okay, got it. Chitai Mountain. This was the location of the Emperor's opportunity of fortune that Ainli had given him. Chu Kuangren had come here to claim that opportunity of fortune. However, when he arrived at Chitai Mountain, he felt a sense of familiarity. Felt like he had been here before. Master, don't you think this place looks a little familiar? Yeah, Lan Yu, you feel the same way too? I think I've been here before. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while before he shook his head. Perhaps I've been here before during my travels. Forget it, let's ignore it. When the two of them drove the elusive mirage closer to Chitai Mountain, they realized that there were many people there who had sealed off the entire mountain. That surprised Chu Kuangren. Has the Emperor's opportunity of fortune been discovered? He kept the elusive mirage and quietly approached with Lan Yu. The cultivators who had sealed off Chitai Mountain along the way did not notice them. Those cultivators were mostly golden core and nascent soul cultivators. With Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu's abilities, it was a piece of cake for them to sneak in. Chu Kuangren had also discovered their identities. They were from an honorable orthodoxy called the Jadewater sect. And this Chitai Mountain was the enemy's territory. At this point, Chu Kuangren finally remembered why Chitai Mountain felt so familiar. He had indeed been here before. Isn't the Jadewater sect one of the people who went to pick a fight with my honorable teacher during his ascension? I remember they were beaten into submission and became a subsidiary force of the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren said in realization. He was the one who led the team during that battle. However, when the Heavenly Golden Palace and the other forces surrounded the Black Heaven Palace, many forces announced that they had cut ties with the Black Heaven sect in order to protect themselves. The Jadewater sect was one of them. Yeah, I remember now. Lan Yu frowned. Back in the Jadewater sect, there was a woman who kept pestering you, Master. I gave her a warning in the end. Is that true? Chu Kuangren blinked. How could he not remember? She's just an unimportant person. It's good that you don't remember her, Master. She's not worthy of being remembered anyway, Lan Yu said. Soon, the two of them broke through the Jadewater sect's blockade and arrived at the depths of Chitai Mountain. There they saw a strange light screen. The light screen was filled with dense spatial fluctuations. It looked like it was connected to some secret realm. Oh, the seal has disappeared, Chu Kuangren said in surprise. According to Ainli, the Emperor's opportunity of fortune that he discovered was sealed with a seal that he could not break. That was why he left temporarily. However, it seemed like someone else had beaten him to it. Does the Jadewater sect have the ability to break the seal placed by an emperor? Chu Kuangren grinned. He initially thought it would be a boring treasure hunt where he would just take the item and leave. Now things seem to be getting interesting. Chapter 443. Emperor's Secret Realm. In a splendid palace, 2 men and a woman were looking at a golden book in front of them, their faces filled with fanaticism. The book was emanating waves of emperor's might. Obviously, it was an emperor's scripture. Beside the Emperor Sutra were two treasured medicines that had an incomparably dense life force circulating around them. These were two Emperor-level treasured medicines. Apart from that, there were all sorts of treasures in the palace. All of them were saint-grade treasures. Green Mist Fairy, Spirit Bloodchild. Here are two supreme elixirs and an Emperor scripture. I'll be taking them. You can split the rest. A young man in a gray robe said. There was a strange aura of death circulating around this person's body. Gue Wucho, this imperial scripture is the greatest treasure here. Aren't you asking for too much by taking it all at once? Blood Spirit Child said in a deep voice. What? Do you have any objections? The two of you are ranked 56th and 61st on the hidden dragon list? Gue Wucho sneered, a hint of disdain in his eyes. His words made the two of them look even worse. However, the opponent was a prodigy ranked 34th on the hidden dragon ranking after all. With their strength, it was indeed very difficult to fight against him, so they didn't act rashly. At least you know what's good for you. If it weren't for the restriction-breaking talisman in my hand, we wouldn't have been able to come in. But if it wasn't for the fact that my Jade Watersword sect has sealed this place off, the Emperor's opportunity of fortune would have long spread out. Reluctance was written all over Green Mist Fairy's face. Blood Spirit, who was at the side, looked at the Emperor scripture in Gue Wucho's hands with a fervent look, but also a hint of fear towards Gue Wucho. This made Gue Wucho feel very good. Seeing people who were obviously very angry at him, but unable to do anything about it, it felt so good. He could not help but recall how he felt about Chu Kuangren a few years ago. Not only him, but all the Sky Prides of that era probably felt the same way about Chu Kuangren. F***ck. Why did he think of this damned fellow? Gue Wucho cursed inwardly. Suddenly, a look of astonishment appeared on his face. He felt as if his body was becoming limp and powerless. The spiritual energy in his body also had a soft feeling. He looked like he was drunk. No, he was ambushed. Gue Wucho's expression changed drastically. He raised his hand and channeled his spiritual energy toward Green Mist Fairy and Schwellingzi. However, for some unknown reason, his attack was too slow due to his weakened state. Schwellingzi managed to land a palm strike on him first. He didn't hold back at all. A terrifying power erupted in an instant, sending Gue Wucho flying. Puff Gue Wucho spat out a mouthful of blood and his aura weakened. What did you do to me? Ah, sorrowful wind softening, this is my unique skill. Unless it's someone with a cultivation far higher than mine, they won't be able to sense anything even if they get hit. Gue Wucho, how does it feel? Green Mist Fairy said with a sweet smile. Schwellingzi, who was beside her, stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. The two of them seemed to be deeply in love with each other, which made Gue Wucho's face turn extremely ugly. This was all part of your plan. That's right. Otherwise, why would I use your restriction-breaking talisman to break this seal? Do you really think that I can't do anything to you just because you're ranked 31st on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard? Green Mist Fairy laughed. Bitch. Ha, Master Blood Spirit, kill him. Alright. Master Blood Spirit attacked immediately. Born in the Yuxia clan, he possessed the supreme spiritual blood Taoist physique, and was no weaker than anyone else. Over the years, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds by relying on some opportunities. Meanwhile, Gue Wucho's combat strength was greatly reduced after being hit by the sorrowful wind softening. Even though his ranking on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard was far higher than Master Blood Spirit, there was nothing he could do now. Be ****, you forced me to do this. Gue Wucho yelled and pushed the deathly aura to its limit. He had activated some kind of secret technique to forcibly increase his strength. Finger of Despair. As he pointed his finger, the suppressive aura of an emperor technique filled the air. Master Blood Spirit's expression changed. He did not expect his opponent's counterattack to be so powerful. He dared not be careless and used his most powerful skill as well. Blood Drain Technique. A blood-colored palm energy suddenly burst out. The two forces collided and the recoil force hit Gue Wucho and Master Blood Spirit, severely injuring them at the same time. As expected of the 31st on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard, your combat strength is still not to be underestimated. Master Blood Spirit looked solemnly at Gue Wucho, who was half kneeling on the ground with a pale face. Gue Wucho no longer had the strength to fight back. At the same time, he was also severely injured and had less than 20% of his combat strength left. Yen, kill him quickly, Master Blood Spirit said to Green Mist Fairy. All right. Green Mist Fairy, who was standing beside him, immediately attacked. She thrust her sword forward with billowing Taoist rhymes, but her target was Master Blood Spirit. Pfft. The long sword pierced through Master Blood Spirit's chest. He looked at the tip of the sword protruding out of his chest in disbelief. The long sword was pulled out, and an arrow of blood spurted out. Master Blood Spirit turned around and staggered a few steps back. The sword wound on his chest was flowing with Taoist rhymes, constantly eroding his body. Yin, why are you doing this? Idiot, don't you understand? She's trying to monopolize this opportunity of fortune of Emperor. Gue Wucho sneered. That's right. It's better for one person to monopolize than 3 people or 2 people, Green Mist Fairy said with a smile as she held her sword. She had a pretty face and was dressed in green. She looked pure and cute, like a pretty girl from a humble family. However, her heart was as vicious as a scorpion's. Master Blood Spirit was so angry that his face turned pale. All those vows of undying love that you told me back then, were they all fake? No way, you actually took it for real. Green Mist sneered. There's no such thing as vows of undying love in this world. Those were just lies to trick you into helping me cultivate. You bitch. Master Blood Spirit trembled. What a joke. I didn't expect that Gue Wucho, would be toyed with by a bitch. Gue Wucho mocked himself. Both he and Master Blood Spirit were severely injured and were no match for Green Mist Fairy. Alright, prepare to die. Green Mist Fairy raised her sword and was about to kill the 2 of them. However, at that moment a round of applause was heard. 2 people walked slowly into the palace. The one who was clapping was the man who was walking in front. He was dressed in white and had black hair, and he was handsome. Upon seeing these 2 people, the 3 people at the scene were shocked. It was Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. What a good show. I didn't expect to witness such a good show. How rare. Chu Kuangren chuckled after applauding. It's you. Green Mist Fairy's face was filled with hatred as she looked at the 2 people. I didn't expect you to have the guts to appear before me. But that's good too. Chu Kuangren, I heard that you've been sealed by the heavenly punishment seal. I want you to pay me back for all the humiliation you've given me back then. I want you to kneel before me and lick my toes, Green Mist Fairy said with a venomous expression. Chu Kuangren was stunned. Who is this? Why does she hate me so much? Beside him, Lan Yu's eyes flashed coldly. Master, can you hand this bitch over to me? Of course. Deal with her yourself. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He was confident that Lan Yu could deal with this Green Mist Fairy. Whoosh, Lan Yu's figure flashed and turned into a stream of light. He grabbed Green Mist Fairy by the neck and dragged her out of the palace. Then, a powerful energy fluctuation erupted outside the palace. It was obvious that the 2 people were already fighting. Chapter 444. Inside the Emperor's palace, Gue Wucho and the Spirit Bloodchild were shocked to see Chu Kuangren suddenly appear before them. They did not expect him to show up here at all. This was especially so for Gue Wucho. He was still reminiscing about the time when he was suppressed by Chu Kuangren to the point where he could not even lift his head. Yet the next moment, Chu Kuangren appeared right in front of him. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about them. He looked around the palace and the treasures around him calmly. After seeing so many treasures, he was now very resistant to them. Even Sage Ruler Grade treasures could not tempt him. Only when he saw the Emperor Grade Supreme Elixir and Emperor Scripture did he reveal a hint of surprise. Oh, Emperor Grade Supreme Elixir. Not bad, but I wonder what they do. Each Supreme Elixir had its own uses. Some were used to increase one's cultivation level, some were used to improve one's aptitude, and some were used to heal injuries. Gue Wucho and the Spirit Bloodchild looked at Chu Kuangren, who did not care about them at all. Their faces turned red and green. That kind of disregard made them feel very unhappy. What did he mean? Did he not care about them at all? After all, they were Sky Prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Spirit Bloodchild, did you notice anything unusual about him? Gue Wucho asked the Spirit Bloodchild through his spiritual thought. Yes, I did. There's no trace of spiritual power on him. It seems that his heavenly punishment seal is not broken yet. Humph, that's a seal that even the emperors of old were helpless against. How could he possibly break it? Wuxia sneered. This is an opportunity. You mean? The spirit bloodchild's expression changed. While those two women are not here, kill Chu Kuangren, take the emperor's opportunity of fortune and leave, Wuxia said. Although they were injured, it was still a piece of cake for them to kill an ordinary person without any cultivation. The spirit bloodchild could not help but hesitate. This is an emperor's opportunity of fortune. Are you really willing to give it up? Also, don't you want to take revenge on that B***tch? Wuxia said. Let's attack together. The spirit bloodchild gritted his teeth and said. All right. The two of them struggled to prop themselves up. They looked at each other and channeled their spiritual energies at the same time to attack Chu Kuangren's back. Why are you courting death? Chu Kuangren shook his head. Runes condensed behind him and turned into a golden light screen, isolating the two's power behind him. How could this be? Rune. Both of their expressions changed drastically. They had been staying in Chitai Mountain for the past few days, and were not very clear about some of the rumors in the outside world. Hence, they did not know that Chu Kuangren could use runes. The sudden appearance of the runes caught the two of them off guard. The powerful force landed on the light barrier and was reflected back. Puff puff. The two of them spat out mouthfuls of blood as they were blasted several dozen feet away. How can there be runes? Wasn't he sealed? Both of their faces were filled with confusion. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren had already kept all the treasures around him into his yin and yang ring. He then turned around and looked at them with an indifferent expression. He raised his hand, and two rune swords suddenly condensed. Not good. The two of them got up and tried to escape. However, the rune swords had already pierced through the air and pierced their bodies in the blink of an eye. They exploded and turned into a mist of blood. After that, Chu Kuangren got up and walked out of the palace. Outside the palace, Green Miss Fairy was lying on the ground. Her clothes were torn and messy, and her pretty face was red and swollen. Her mouth was full of blood as if she had been slapped dozens of times. B***tch, I'm going to kill you. Green Miss Fairy glared at Lan Yu with extreme hatred. A few years ago, you tried to seduce my master. Perhaps I should have killed you then. I can't believe you've grown so much in just a few years. How many men have you hooked up with along the way? Lan Yu said indifferently. However, her words pierced straight into Green Miss Fairy's heart. A few years ago, she failed to seduce Chu Kuangren in the Jadewater sect and was banished from the sect. In the past few years, she had been climbing up the ranks at all costs. It was normal for her to sell her body. With the help of some opportunities of fortune, she finally achieved the strength and status she had today. When she returned to the Jadewater sect, she brutally killed the sect leader who had banished her years ago and took control of the sect. She called herself Green Mist Fairy. However, Chu Kuangren's reappearance had reminded her of that terrible past. The strength that she had risked everything to obtain, and the strength that she was so proud of was nothing in front of Lan Yu. D***minute. Green Miss Fairy raised her sword and stabbed at Lan Yu. However, she was sent flying with a single punch. At that moment, Chu Kuangren had just walked out of the palace. He was surprised to see Green Miss Fairy in such a sorry state. He had rarely seen Lan Yu treat someone like that. It seemed like Lan Yu hated this person very much. But who is this person? She looks familiar. Chu Kuangren took a few more glances at her, and seemed to have remembered something. He finally remembered who she was, but he did not mind it. Master Chu, please spare me. I won't do it again. At that moment, Green Miss Fairy crawled to Chu Kuangren's feet. Chu Kuangren took 2 steps back. He looked at her with an indifferent and merciless expression. Master Chu, I'm sorry. Green Miss Fairy was still begging for mercy. You're begging for mercy while casting your secret technique. You're quite the playboy, Chu Kuangren suddenly said. Upon hearing that, Green Miss Fairy's expression changed. She suddenly lunged and grabbed Chu Kuangren, trying to subdue him. At the same time, her body released a surge of Taoist rhyme that ordinary cultivators would not be able to detect. It was her unique ultimate technique, the Sorrow Wind Softener. How foolish. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed a runic sword that sent green mist fairy flying. How is this possible? How can you not be affected by my sorrow wind softener? Green mist fairy said in disbelief. Ever since she had mastered the sorrow wind softener, this was her first failure. I just need to be prepared, Chu Kuangren said. His spiritual thoughts were extremely sensitive. Others might not be able to detect the sorrow wind softener's Taoist rhyme, but it was a piece of cake for him. As long as he used his mind power to isolate the Taoist rhyme, he would not be affected. Run! Green Mist Fairy's face was filled with fear. She was no match for Lan Yu alone. Now that Chu Kuangren, who could use runic energy, was here, she would definitely die. She dashed out of the secret realm. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and was about to finish her off. However, at that moment, a white spear of light suddenly shot out from beside him and pierced towards Green Mist Fairy. Just as Green Mist Fairy was about to leave the secret realm, the white spear pierced through the air and struck her, sending her flying. With a few loud explosions, she smashed through several mountains. Finally, she was pinned onto a mountain wall. Inside the secret realm, Lan Yu dispersed the light-based Taoist rhyme on her body. This person is not worth dying in your hands. Let me do it for you. All right. Chu Kuangren was stunned for a moment before he nodded. It seemed that Lan Yu really hated this Green Mist Fairy. Chu Kuangren would have to kill her himself. Chapter 445. In Chitai Mountain, the Jadewater sect had sealed off the area. They all knew that Green Mist Fairy had obtained some kind of great opportunity of fortune. However, they would not even be able to smell it, let alone taste it. Ever since Green Mist Fairy became the Jadewater sect leader, they had never had a good day. To her, they were just tools. However, there was nothing they could do. After all, she was a Sky Pride on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. I wonder what kind of doggish *T luck this be *T has to obtain such an opportunity of fortune. The heavens are really blind. One of the Jadewater sect disciples could not help but mutter. At that moment, a white light suddenly flashed past. One by one, the mountains exploded into pieces. A figure was pinned to the mountain wall by a white spear. The Jadewater sect disciples immediately looked over. Their pupils shrank, and they could not help but gasp. That's Green Mist Fairy. Who did this? Who did this? Although the Jadewater sect disciples were very displeased with Green Mist Fairy, they had to admit that as a Sky Pride on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, her combat strength was extremely strong. Her strength was even close to that of the older generation. However, such a person was now pinned to the mountain wall. Two people slowly walked out of the secret realm not far away. When the Jadewater sect disciples saw these two people, their faces turned pale, and they took a few steps back in fear. It's him. When did he come? Whoosh! Lan Yu's figure flashed and appeared on the mountain wall. He raised his hand and formed another white spear, and a piercing Taoist rhyme gushed out. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Green Mist Fairy could not help but beg for mercy, her face filled with fear. However, Lan Yu raised his spear and brought it down. A mist of blood exploded, and Green Mist Fairy's head exploded on the spot. Spare me, sect leader. Spare me. At that moment, an elder suddenly knelt in front of Chu Kuangren, his body trembling. Sect leader, we didn't mean to betray the Black Heaven sect. This was all done by the previous Jadewater sect leader. We have nothing to do with it. Another elder knelt on the ground. From their point of view, Chu Kuangren was here to seek revenge. After all, when the Black Heaven sect was besieged by several major forces, not only did the Jadewater sect not help, but they also took the opportunity to become independent. Strictly speaking, this was a form of betrayal. As the elders knelt down one by one, none of the Jadewater Sword sect disciples dared to remain standing. The entire mountain was filled with people kneeling down. Let's go, Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu. The two of them left Chitai Mountain. From the beginning to the end, he did not even glance at the group of Jadewater Sword sect disciples on the ground. To him, these people were insignificant characters, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were ants. No one would fight to the death with a few ants. When Chu Kuangren obtained the Emperor's opportunity of fortune at Chitai Mountain, a piece of news quickly spread throughout the entire firmament star. The 6 top-notch orthodoxies had placed a bounty on Chu Kuangren's head. As long as one could kill Chu Kuangren, no matter who it was, they would be rewarded handsomely by the 6 top-notch orthodoxies. Not only that, but the news of Chu Kuangren possessing 2 emperor weapons had also spread, and many people were tempted by it. Although some emperor's opportunities had appeared in the past few years, emperor weapons were still very rare. Not many emperor's opportunities had emperor weapons. After all, emperor weapons were very important to emperors. When emperors left their opportunities of fortune, they would rarely leave their weapons behind. However, Chu Kuangren alone had 2 emperor weapons. 2 emperor weapons were too tempting. Coupled with the bounty from the 6 top-notch orthodoxies, many cultivators in the firmament star were tempted. Chu Kuangren is now a walking treasure vault. If we can kill him, we'll be able to reap a lot of benefits. TSK, if it was before, not many people would dare to touch him. But now that he has the heavenly punishment seal on him, even if he can use those strange runic techniques, how much combat strength can he unleash? That's right. 2 emperor weapons and the generous rewards promised by the 6 top-notch orthodoxies are worth the risk. On Firmament Star, an undercurrent was surging. Many cultivators were searching for Chu Kuangren. However, under such circumstances, Chu Kuangren did not have the slightest intention of hiding his whereabouts. He continued to do whatever he wanted. After settling the matter at Chitai Mountain, his next target was the craggy ocean tower. In the past, when the craggy ocean tower was still in seclusion, it would not be easy to find them. However, things were different now. These unknown lands had appeared in the world one after another. They were no longer in hiding, and they were even openly promoting their orthodoxies. Most people in the world probably knew where they were. On his way to the craggy ocean tower, Chu Kuangren passed by a city. This city was called the Divine Predictor City. This was because an expert called the Divine Predictor lived in this city. The moment Chu Kuangren stepped into the Divine Predictor City, many of the strong cultivators in the city had already noticed him. Chu Kuangren is here in the Divine Predictor City. This guy doesn't even bother to hide his whereabouts. Does he not know what kind of situation he's in? It seems like he really doesn't care about us. Chu Kuangren was not bothered by the spiritual thoughts that scanned his body. He continued to wander the streets with Lan Yu. Along the way, they attracted the attention of many people. However, the 2 of them who were in the eye of the storm did not seem to notice it at all. They continued eating and playing until they reached the entrance of the Divine Predictor Pavilion. Chu Kuangren looked up at the soaring dragon leaderboard that was floating above the Divine Predictor Pavilion and curled his lips. What a fancy thing! He was not surprised that he was ranked first on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. The best in the world. Wasn't he already the best? Inside the Divine Predictor Pavilion, the Divine Predictor sat on a futon with mysterious Taoist rhymes surrounding him. Countless scenes changed within the Taoist rhymes. If any great ones were here, they would be shocked to see this scene. These scenes included the past, the future, and the present. This was the power of the Divine Predictor. Oh, an important guest has arrived. As if sensing something, the Divine Predictor retracted the Taoist rhymes on his body. He said to a young boy outside the door, "How you, there's an important guest outside. Help me welcome him." The young boy was very surprised. For the past few years, countless people had tried to enter the Divine Predictor Pavilion. Everyone wanted to enter to find the Divine Predictor, so that he could predict their fortunes. However, not a single one of them had succeeded. The Divine Predictor Pavilion must not be revealed. The Divine Predictor rarely left the Divine Predictor Pavilion. Aside from Qian Fugui, who helped him build the Divine Predictor Pavilion, he never saw anyone else. Not to mention an important guest who took the initiative to welcome him. Yes. How you dared not delay and quickly left the Divine Predictor Pavilion. Meanwhile, outside the Divine Predictor Pavilion, Chu Kuangren's personal visit had attracted a lot of attention. Do you guys think Chu Kuangren can enter? I don't know. For the past few years, countless people have tried to enter the Divine Predictor Pavilion to meet the Divine Predictor. However, aside from Qian Fugui, that stinking merchant, no one else has been able to enter. Chu Kuangren is probably in a precarious situation. Who knows? He's ranked first on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Tisk, now that the 6 great orthodoxies have put a bounty on him, who knows if he'll survive? Perhaps the Divine Predictor Pavilion doesn't want to see him. Chapter 446. In front of the Divine Predictor Pavilion, Chu Kuangren's arrival had attracted a lot of discussion. At that moment, the door of the Divine Predictor Pavilion opened and a green-robed child slowly walked out. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren, he bowed and greeted him. "Esteemed guest, my teacher invites you in for a chat." The child looked at Chu Kuangren curiously. Although he was still young, he was not completely ignorant of the outside world. He had grown up hearing about Chu Kuangren's name. He was very curious about this person. When he first saw Chu Kuangren in person, his heart skipped a beat. This person was just too good-looking. "Thank you." Chu Kuangren smiled. Under Hao Yu's lead, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu walked into the Divine Predictor Pavilion that no one had been able to enter for years. The people on the street were shocked. He really went in. Hao Yu even came out to greet him personally. It seems like the Divine Predictor values this person more than I expected. Not long after Chu Kuangren entered the Divine Predictor Pavilion, many people began to gather around the Divine Predictor Pavilion, almost surrounding it. These people were armed with weapons and had ferocious qi circulating around them. The pedestrians quickly retreated when they saw this. What a ferocious group of people. What are they doing here? Of course they're here for Chu Kuangren. He's now wanted by the 6 top-notch orthodoxies. There are too many people who want his life. How dare they parade around like this? I have to give it to them. Chu Kuangren had no idea what was happening in the outside world. After entering the Divine Predictor Pavilion and passing through a few corridors, he and Lan Yu came to a large hall where the Divine Predictor was sitting. "Brother Chu, I trust you've been well." "Greetings, Senior Predictor." Chu Kuangren smiled. "Sit." The few of them casually sat in the hall. The Divine Predictor's eyes flashed with a mysterious Taoist rhyme as he looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "I didn't expect Brother Chu to have such an opportunity of fortune. The heavenly punishment seal is a blessing and not a curse to you." As one of the most enigmatic people in the firmament star, the Divine Predictor had his own unique techniques. Others only knew that Chu Kuangren had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal and his cultivation level was sealed. But the Divine Predictor had noticed something else. But this was something else that made his heart palpitate. It could only be said that he was indeed an anomaly that even he couldn't figure out. Chu Kuangren chuckled and said nothing. He had indeed gained many benefits from the heavenly punishment seal in his body. It was just that he had yet to fully reveal them. "Senior, I'm afraid that placing me at the top of the Soaring Dragon leaderboard will cause me a lot of trouble," Chu Kuangren suddenly said. "Oh, you're afraid of trouble? That's not it." Chu Kuangren chuckled. He didn't have anything urgent to discuss with Tianjizi. He just happened to pass by and wanted to catch up. The two of them talked for a while. During this period, Tianjizi told him many things. For example, the 9 heavens and hell. Another example would be those forbidden prodigies who weren't on the hidden dragon list. Chu Kuangren had gained a lot from their conversation. He had learned quite a lot of secrets from the Divine Predictor, which might help him in the future. "I've gained a lot this time. Thank you, Senior Tianji." Fellow Taoist Chu, there's no need to be so courteous. Your path is still very long. I'm just a guide for you," Tianjizi said meaningfully. Chu Kuangren pondered. To him, Tianjizi was very mysterious. He knew a lot of things and it seemed like there was nothing in this world that he did not know. Every time they met, Chu Kuangren would always gain something. It was as if Tianjizi would tell him something at the right time. It was not wrong to say that Tianjizi was showing him the way. "I'll take my leave then." Chu Kuangren chuckled and stopped thinking about it. Looking at his departing figure, Tianjizi smiled and then turned around to look at the great hall behind him. "It's time for me to leave too. I've stayed here for 3 years and I've done everything I can." "Teacher, are you leaving? Will we meet again?" Hao Yu Tongzi was a little reluctant. "We'll meet again if fate allows it." Tianjizi smiled. His figure gradually became illusory and eventually disappeared into the void. "Farewell, teacher." Hao Yu Tongzi knelt on the ground and said. Chu Kuangren left the Divine Predictor Pavilion. More than a dozen different auras locked onto him the moment he stepped out of the door. Each of them was at the level of a sage. The street in front of the Divine Predictor Pavilion was already deserted. Obviously, the others had long known that something would happen here. Afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire, they had already run away. Chu Kuangren smirked. Yo, more than a dozen sages. It's been a long time since I've seen such a big scene. Are they all here to kill me? His voice was not loud, but it was clearly audible. The sages who were hiding in the void walked out one by one. Chu Kuangren glanced around. These are all unfamiliar faces. I can't believe there are so many sages in this world during my absence. That's good too. I was afraid that there would be no more sages to kill when I come out. His last sentence was like a biting cold wind that blew into everyone's hearts. Although this person in front of them did not have the slightest spiritual power fluctuation, the sages still felt a chill that made their blood run cold. Chu Kuangren, don't blame us. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too arrogant. This era has no place for you. One of the sages said loudly. He was one of the sages who became a sage in recent years. Compared to some of the older sages, he was not that afraid of Chu Kuangren. After all, he had never faced Chu Kuangren before. That's right, Chu Kuangren. You have 2 emperor weapons, but you don't have any cultivation. Do you really think that you can live in peace with the reputation you've accumulated in the past? Dream on. Hand over the emperor weapons and we'll allow you to commit suicide. At least we'll save you some face. Otherwise, don't blame us for doing it ourselves. A few more sages said. Some of the older sages could not help but feel their eyelids twitch. F***ck. They had never dared to speak to Chu Kuangren like that. Even if he did not have any spiritual power fluctuations, the impression he had left on them was too deep. It's been a long time since someone dared to speak to me like that. Chu Kuangren murmured. Then, he lifted his arm and mystical runes condensed into a golden greatsword. He then aimed it at one of the sages who was the most aggressive. The runic sword pierced through the air. The piercingly cold sword-based Taoist rhyme locked onto that sage. He roared and channeled the spiritual power in his body to unleash a punch. When the sword and the fist collided, that sage screamed in pain. The runic sword pierced through the sage's chest and pinned him to the wall. A single sword strike had killed a sage. The sage's pupils shrank when they saw Chu Kuangren's terrifying strength. How powerful! F***ck. Is this guy's cultivation really sealed? The sages said in shock. Don't think too highly of yourselves. Even if Chu Kuangren has the heavenly punishment seal on him, he's still not someone an ordinary sage can fight against. Everyone, let's attack together. A great sage yelled. Then, the sages charged forward and unleashed all sorts of Taoist rhymes and energies towards Chu Kuangren. Chapter 447. Dozens of sages charged at Chu Kuangren and unleashed all sorts of energies. Chu Kuangren stood still as golden runes circulated around him. Each of them was a sage-grade rune. These runes intertwined and formed a runic light barrier. The sages' attacks could not even scratch the barrier. Go all out. One of the sages shouted. Instantly, surges of sage Taoist rhymes erupted. Some of them took out their sage weapons while others activated their sage techniques to attack the runic light barrier. However, all the attacks that landed on the runic light screen only caused a few ripples. It was of no use at all, and Chu Kuangren was not hurt at all. How dare you guys come after me with only this much strength? I wonder what gave you the courage to do so. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said. Then, he raised his hand and channeled his spiritual thoughts. In an instant, the surrounding wind and clouds surged as a huge amount of spiritual qi gathered and formed into runic swords that hung in the sky. We were too careless. I can't believe this guy still has such combat strength. The terrifying runic aura pressed down on every sage like a mountain, causing them to be extremely terrified. Fall! Chu Kuangren shouted. In an instant, the runic swords fell like raindrops. The entire street was enveloped by the runic aura. The great ones who were observing from the shadows were speechless. When the runic aura dissipated, all that was left on the street were the corpses of the sages. Only one person was left standing among the corpses, trembling in fear. That sage had just used a technique from the craggy ocean tower. Hence, Chu Kuangren had purposely avoided him with the runic swords. Of course, it was not because he was being compassionate. You're a sage of the craggy ocean tower, right? Go back and tell the current craggy ocean tower lord that I'll be visiting them personally in 2 days. This time I won't just be paying them a visit, but I'll also annihilate them. Those in the craggy ocean tower who don't wish to die, let them leave on their own, Chu Kuangren said. At the same time, a mysterious rune appeared in the void and turned into a ray of golden light that was injected into the sage's body. What did you do to me? The sage asked in fear. Just a small gift for the craggy ocean tower lord. Chu Kuangren then turned around and left. The sage did not dare to stay any longer and quickly left. There were only corpses of sages left on the street. After a while, people came over one after another and started fighting over the corpses. For cultivators below the sage realm, the corpses of sages were priceless treasures. In the past, Chu Kuangren might have cared a little. However, now that he had killed saints like slaughtering dogs, what use did he have for corpses? Unless it was the body of a great emperor, otherwise, even if the body of a saint ruler was placed in front of him, he probably would not care. I've underestimated him. I never thought that he would be able to display such strength with the Tao of Talismans. Unbelievable. Someone's coming. At this moment someone said in surprise. Then, everyone saw a golden light flying over from afar. This person had a handsome appearance and a tall figure. He wore a golden robe that was gorgeous and extraordinary, and he emanated a noble aura of supremacy. It's him, the 11th on the hidden dragon list, Xiao Lintian. Why is he here? Of course he's here for Chu Kuangren. That guy has the heavenly golden imperial physique, but he was suppressed by Chu Kuangren a few years ago. It would be strange if he didn't come back for revenge. The crowd discussed among themselves. When Xiao Lintian arrived at the scene, he looked at the sage corpses on the ground and grinned. Chu Kuangren, it seems that you're not completely crippled yet. Very well, now you're worthy enough for me to defeat you. He recalled the humiliation of being repeatedly defeated by Chu Kuangren 3 years ago, and a vicious look appeared in his eyes. This time, I must trample you under my feet in front of everyone. To fulfill this wish, Xiao Lintian did not immediately challenge Chu Kuangren to a duel after he found out that he was in the Divine Predictor City. If he wanted to defeat Chu Kuangren in front of everyone, he would have to first build an arena for everyone to witness the battle. Inside the Four Seas restaurant, Qian Fugui was entertaining Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu, I knew you wouldn't give up after this setback. As expected, you've gone on a killing spree as soon as you came out. Qian Fugui laughed. Boss Qian, I heard that your business has been booming recently, and you even have dealings with those top-notch orthodoxies. Chu Kuangren chuckled. The Four Seas firm was the largest firm in the firmament star, but the situation had changed in recent years. With the emergence of many major forces, these forces needed to make a name for themselves and expand their orthodoxies. Naturally, an organization like the Four Seas firm that held a huge amount of wealth became the target of these forces. Later on, under the guidance of the Divine Predictor, not only did Qian Fugui survive the crisis, but he also brought the firm to greater heights. Not at all, it's just a small business. Qian Fugui chuckled. He said, I heard that Brother Chu is planning to visit the craggy ocean tower. I've had dealings with them over the years, so I have some information about them. Although I can't be of much help, I'd still like to share it with you. Oh, I'm all ears. Ever since the previous craggy ocean tower lord died in the Black Heaven sect, the craggy ocean tower lord before him took over. He was also a sage ruler. Inside the craggy ocean tower, a disheveled figure dashed into the grand hall. Tower lord, bad news. That sage was the one that Chu Kuangren had released. He rushed into the grand hall and quickly informed everyone about Chu Kuangren's impending arrival. After hearing what he said, everyone's expression changed drastically, and they were unable to restrain their anger. B****. This Chu Kuangren is such a B****. If he dares to come to the craggy ocean tower, I'll teach him a lesson. The elders of the craggy ocean tower scolded. Only the craggy ocean tower lord was deep in thought. You said that Chu Kuangren placed a rune on your body and said it was a gift. Yes. The sage nodded in confusion. Suddenly, his expression changed, and his body began to swell up like a rubber ball. What's going on? I don't know. Oh no, retreat. The craggy ocean tower lord shouted. However, he was still too late. With a scream, the sage's body exploded, and a huge amount of energy swept out and filled the entire grand hall. Everyone's expression changed as they were injured by that energy. A mysterious rune appeared in the center of that energy. That rune absorbed the sage's blood mist and condensed into a blood-colored word that read "battle" in the air. Chu Kuangren, what a gift! The craggy ocean tower lord gritted his teeth and said. Chu Kuangren had sent them a letter of challenge. Every craggy ocean tower disciple could see the boundless domineering aura that emanated from the blood-red word "battle" that floated in the air. They could vaguely sense that the craggy ocean tower was about to face an unprecedented calamity. If they could not overcome it, the craggy ocean tower would cease to exist. Tell all disciples to prepare for battle. The craggy ocean tower lord took a deep breath and said, Sect leader, there's no need to make such a big fuss. Let me go and take his head. A newly ascended sage said arrogantly. Idiot! The craggy ocean tower lord yelled. I said, tell all disciples to use all their strength and prepare for battle. Sect leader, is there a need to make such a big fuss? The newly ascended sage asked in confusion. Yes, that's Chu Kuangren we're talking about. The craggy ocean tower lord gritted his teeth and said. Chapter 448. The streets of the divine predictor city were deserted. It was snowing heavily that day, and the sage corpses on the streets were all gone. Not a single drop of blood was left behind. Coupled with today's heavy snow, other than some dilapidated buildings in the surroundings, no one knew that a great battle had taken place yesterday. At the end of the street, a man and a woman were slowly walking over. The man was wearing a cape, and the woman was holding an umbrella for him. The two of them arrived at the Four Seas restaurant. Qian Fugui quickly came out to welcome them. Brother Chu, you're here. Yes, boss. The weather is a bit cold today, so it's perfect for a hot pot. Give me a double hot pot. Chu Kuangren smiled. Sure thing. Qian Fugui said, but his eyes were filled with uncertainty. Is Brother Chu really cold? You can kill sages so easily. Why would you be afraid of this little bit of temperature? However, he did not ask any further and ordered someone to prepare the hot pot. Chu Kuangren found a seat and sat down. Lan Yu put away the umbrella and closed the window to prevent the wind and snow from entering. The diners around them did not say anything. They looked at Chu Kuangren with uncertainty as well. This guy is too weird. He's so powerful, but he's acting so cold now. Does he really not have any cultivation? Soon the hot pot was served. Chu Kuangren looked at the hot pot in front of him and smiled. What a treat to eat hot pot in this kind of weather. It was true that he did not have any cultivation, and it was also true that he was cold. However, it was all intentional. He could use his mind power to isolate the cold, but that would make the hot pot less tasty. Just as Chu Kuangren was enjoying his meal, a voice suddenly echoed throughout the entire divine predictor city. Chu Kuangren, do you dare to show yourself and fight me? The cold voice was accompanied by a terrifying burst of energy. The snowstorm intensified, and the howling wind blew open the doors and windows of the restaurant. Snow and wind immediately rushed in, adding to the chill. The hot pot in front of Chu Kuangren was suddenly covered with a layer of snow. This is killing my appetite. He sighed helplessly. Lan Yu got up and closed the doors and windows. Master, you stay here and eat. I'll go out and see what's going on. All right. Chu Kuangren nodded. Lan Yu left the restaurant. The eyes of the surrounding diners flickered as they whispered to each other. I didn't mishear that voice just now. It's Xiao Lintian from the Heavenly Golden Palace. He's really here to challenge Chu Kuangren. Xiao Lintian has made great progress in the past few years. He just crossed the tribulation a year ago, and his combat power is stronger than most great sages. I wonder what will happen when the two of them fight? Can that Lan Yu handle it? Chu Kuangren paid no attention to the comments of the crowd. In his eyes there was only the boiling soup in front of him. At the top of a tall building in Tianji City, Xiao Lintian stood there proudly with a peerlessly overbearing aura emanating from his body. His Taoist rhyme circulated as if he had become the center of this world. In the dark, many spiritual senses were watching him. The heavenly golden imperial physique is indeed extraordinary. Even a third or fourth step great sage can't compare to such an aura. I guess only a 7-step great sage can suppress him. Moreover, he hasn't become a sage yet. If he becomes a sage, he will be even more terrifying. Yeah, too strong. The heavenly golden imperial physique was ranked second among the 3,000 Taoist physiques. Since ancient times, countless people had dreamed of such a physique. As long as one did not die prematurely, they had an 80% chance of becoming an emperor. Although Xiao Lintian's acquired heavenly golden imperial physique was flawed, he was undoubtedly the strongest among the younger generation in Firmament Star, excluding Chu Kuangren and the 9 Heaven Sky Prides. Chu Kuangren, today I shall fulfill my biggest wish of the past 3 years. I shall defeat you with my own hands, Xiao Lintian murmured. He was extremely excited at the thought that his wish was about to come true. At that moment, a series of light footsteps could be heard. Xiao Lintian looked over and saw a silver-haired lady in a gorgeous silver-white armor walking over the snow with a cold expression. Everyone was surprised to see her. Lan Yu was no stranger to them. After all, she had been a young emperor since a long time ago. She had been by Chu Kuangren's side all these years, so everyone knew that she was a top-notch Sky Pride. However, this Sky Pride rarely fought, so her combat strength was unknown. Especially when facing a Sky Pride like Xiao Lintian, who even most great sages could not handle. Could she really do it? You? Lan Yu, where's Chu Kuangren? Xiao Lintian frowned and asked. Lan Yu's expression was cold as she said, My master doesn't have time to deal with you. I'll deal with you. Then, the scepter of light was already in her hand. An incredibly dense light-based Taoist rhyme spread out like a tidal wave. Her cultivation level had also reached the boundary sage level. The auras of 2 Sky Prides with supreme Taoist physiques clashed, shattering the surrounding snow and causing the entire street to tremble. Do you think you're worthy to be my opponent? Xiao Lintian said coldly with disdain in his eyes. The holy radiant physique was indeed a supreme Taoist physique, but it was still a distance away from the second-ranked heavenly golden imperial physique. Do you think you're worthy to be my master's opponent? Lan Yu retorted. Forget it. I'll defeat you first, then I'll drag Chu Kuangren out myself. Xiao Lintian snorted. 3 years ago you were like a dog in front of my master. 3 years later, if not for the heavenly punishment seal, I'm afraid you wouldn't have dared to challenge him even if you were given 10 times the courage. At the end of the day you're just a coward. Lan Yu's words were like a sharp knife that pierced deeply into Xiao Lintian's heart, causing his expression to instantly become unsettled. He had to admit that Lan Yu was right. If Chu Kuangren was not sealed, he would not have dared to come here even if he was given 10 times the courage. The reason why he was so confident was because he was certain that Chu Kuangren's combat strength was not as strong as his. However, knowing was one thing, saying it out loud was another. Xiao Lintian was furious. You're asking for it. Then he instantly attacked with a punch. The domineering aura instantly locked onto Lan Yu. His first attack was an extremely powerful boundary emperor technique. Lan Yu did not back down. She waved the scepter of light in her hand and unleashed a burst of light-based Taoist rhyme. She had also unleashed a boundary emperor technique. Moreover, her boundary emperor technique was of the light attribute, so it resonated with her holy radiant physique and unleashed a powerful burst of power. It was her self-created boundary emperor technique. Over the past 3 years, she had drunk many Tao enlightenment teas. Coupled with some other resources, she had entered the state of Tao enlightenment many times. This boundary emperor technique was self-created while she was in the state of Tao enlightenment. Boom! The two forces collided, and Lan Yu was pushed back a few meters. The silver-white armor on her body shimmered with light-based Taoist rhyme and mysterious runes, easily dispelling the impact. Master's enchanted runes are indeed powerful. Lan Yu smiled as she felt the power of the armor on her body. This armor was originally a top-notch supreme weapon. However, Chu Kuangren had strengthened it with runes some time ago, so it was no weaker than a sage ruler weapon. Again, Lan Yu yelled and took the initiative to attack. As the 2 Sky Prides fought, the snowstorm intensified. Chapter 449. Boom, boom, boom. Violent energy continued to sweep out as the holy light Taoist rhyme and the heavenly golden imperial physique's domineering Taoist rhyme continued to clash. The surrounding snow and wind shattered one after another, turning into white mist that filled the sky. The cultivators who were secretly observing were all shocked. I didn't expect Lan Yu to be able to fight Xiaolin to this extent. She's too strong. No wonder she was once the strongest young emperor. However, the heavenly golden imperial body is ranked second among the supreme Taoist bodies. I'm afraid the holy light body is no match for it. Physique enhancement is part of it, but a cultivator's own control over the Tao body and cultivation techniques are also very important. More and more people were watching the battle. Among them, there was no lack of cultivators who had rushed to the Divine Predictor City after hearing that Chu Kuangren had appeared. Most of them were sky prides of the younger generation. For example, the Empyrean Walker who lived under Chu Kuangren's shadow 3 years ago. Guishan, you're here too. Chu Kuangren has appeared in the Divine Predictor City. How can I not come? But why is Lan Yu fighting Xiaolin? Where's Chu Kuangren? I don't know. Let's just watch the battle first. Since Lan Yu is here, then Chu Kuangren must be here too. The group of Empyrean walkers gathered together and conversed. Meanwhile, the battle between Lan Yu and Xiaolin was getting more and more intense. The light Taoist rhyme and the heavenly Lord Taoist rhyme gradually rose to their peaks. The two of them seemed to have become the center of this world. A terrifying light-based Taoist rhyme flowed around Lan Yu, and a dazzling white light bloomed, making her look like a Valkyrie. The surrounding female cultivators couldn't help but pale in comparison. She held the scepter of light, and a huge white fireball gradually formed on the top of the scepter, like a small sun. In front of her, a heavenly venerate Dharma idol appeared behind Xiaolin. Endless overbearing pressure seemed to want to suppress the heavens. Lan Yu, to be able to fight with me to this extent, you are not weak. You will definitely have a place in the top 20 of the hidden dragon rank. It's a pity that you met me, Xiaolin said proudly. He raised his hand and gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The celestial master Dharma power behind him followed suit and slowly raised its arm, clenching its fist. I'll defeat you first, then I'll defeat Chu Kuangren. Xiaolin shouted coldly as he raised his hand and punched out. A powerful gust of wind swept through the area, shattering all the buildings in its path. The punch was aimed at Lan Yu, as if it could destroy everything in its path. Lan Yu wielded the scepter of light and swung it. A white fireball shot out like a meteor and landed on the heavenly reverence Dharma form's fist. With a loud bang, the two forces exploded, and a terrifying shockwave turned into a storm that swept out. The spectators all around retreated. Is it over? With such a powerful force, it's about time to determine the victor. Everyone stared at the center of the energy. There was a person standing on the roof of a tall building. He stood there proudly, exuding a domineering aura. It was Xiaolin. As expected, Lan Yu is still not a match for Xiaolin. There is still a certain gap between the holy radiant physique and the heavenly golden imperial physique. Moreover, Xiaolin own cultivation level is not weak. Other than those monstrous sky prides from the 9 heavens, there aren't many sky prides in the world who can compare to Xiaolin. The heavens' favorites looked at each other. They were not surprised by this result. Meanwhile, Xiaolin stood with his hands behind his back with a condescending look on his face. Now that Lan Yu has been defeated, it's your turn, Chu Kuangren. He looked into the distance and got up to leave. However, at that moment, a chuckle suddenly rang out from within the smoke. A bright white light flashed, and a white spear pierced through the void like a bolt of lightning towards Xiaolin. The sudden change made Xiaolin's expression change. He raised his hand and threw out a punch at the white spear. With a boom, the long spear exploded right away. A terrifying force swept out, sending Xiaolin flying out. On his fist, there were a few more bloody scars. He looked at the smoke angrily. When the smoke dissipated, a faint white light circulated around Lan Yu's body, and a black veil covered her. You haven't even defeated me, and you're already thinking of going against Master. Are you out of your mind? Lan Yu sneered. The crowd was shocked to see her veil. Is that a Boundary Emperor weapon? I can't believe Lan Yu has a Boundary Emperor weapon. It's this veil that blocked Xiaolin's attack. I can't believe she has such a treasure. A Boundary Emperor weapon was extremely important to any top-notch orthodoxy, just like a sage ruler. Even the top-notch sky prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard did not have a Boundary Emperor weapon. Such an opportunity of fortune was too rare. As for the Boundary Emperor weapon in Lan Yu's hand, it was actually the Boundary Emperor weapon that Ainli used to infiltrate the Black Heaven sect. It was also because of this black veil that Chu Kuangren felt assured to let Lan Yu fight Xiao Lintian. She could not hurt her at all. Humph, using a Boundary Emperor weapon? Despicable. Xiao Lintian snorted. Lan Yu could not help but laugh. You took advantage of Master's heavenly punishment seal to challenge him. How dare you call him despicable? You! Xiao Lintian was rebuked until he was speechless. However, he soon forgot about it. I can't hurt you with a Boundary Emperor weapon, but you're no match for me either. You can't stop me from going after Chu Kuangren. He did not want to tangle with Lan Yu anymore. Since she had a Boundary Emperor weapon, he could not hurt her, and she was not his main target. The person he wanted to defeat was Chu Kuangren. Oh, you're looking for me? At that moment, an indifferent voice resounded. The great ones who were secretly observing the battle and the spectating sky prides could not help but shiver as they looked towards the source of the voice. Amidst the snowstorm, a white-robed young man with a gorgeous longsword strapped to his waist stepped on the snow. His handsomeness was unparalleled as he approached with an umbrella. Xiao Lintian's aura was domineering as if he was the center of the world. However, when this person appeared, it was as if the world was about to collapse before him, even though he did not have any spiritual power fluctuations on him. Compared to him, Xiao Lintian was like a foil. It's him. Really is him. Among the crowd of Empyrean walkers, Feng Yaorao could not help but be excited. After 3 years, this person was still so extraordinary. His face had not changed at all, but it still amazed her. Chu Kuangren. He's here. He's finally here. The great ones and sky prides looked solemn. Chu Kuangren. You're finally here. Xiao Lintian's eyes lit up when he saw the person in front of him and noticed that he did not have any spiritual power fluctuations on him. He was extremely excited as if he could already see himself stepping on Chu Kuangren to avenge himself. As for whether he could do it or not, he did not doubt it at all. He knew that Chu Kuangren could use runic power, but with the heavenly punishment seal on him, how strong could he be even if he could use runic power? Besides, he was no longer the person he was 3 years ago. Chu Kuangren walked to Lan Yu's side with the umbrella. She put away her black veil and took the umbrella from him to shelter him from the snow. Xiao Lintian could not help but laugh out loud in the snowstorm. Chu Kuangren, have you fallen to such a state? Even a small snowstorm scares you? Looks like you've really become a useless mortal. Chapter 450. Looks like you've really become a useless mortal now. Xiao Lintian's maniacal laughter echoed, and the surrounding sky prides looked at Chu Kuangren thoughtfully. Was Chu Kuangren really not going to return? Phew! Chu Kuangren rubbed his hands and let out a breath. How cold, especially after hearing that lame joke. Chu Kuangren, even if you've become a useless mortal now, don't even think about forgetting the humiliation you've brought me in the past. He lowered his stance, took a step forward, and unleashed a powerful punch. The domineering fist energy surged like a golden torrent, but it was blocked by a runic barrier when it got close to Chu Kuangren. The surrounding sky prides were stunned. I knew it, he has some kind of runic technique. How did he do it? Runes also required spiritual power to activate, but Chu Kuangren had no spiritual power at all, yet he could easily activate tens of thousands of runes. That was something that no one could understand. The blizzard is a force that originates from nature. Chu Kuangren reached out his hand and the snowflakes melted on his palm. He chuckled. I can't believe there are people who would underestimate the blizzard and nature. It seemed like he was talking to Xiao Lintian, but it also seemed like he was talking to everyone else. As soon as he finished speaking, the blizzard around them intensified. It was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than before. The sudden change shocked everyone present. What's going on? Can Chu Kuangren control the blizzard? I've heard people say that runes are the power to simplify the Taoist rhymes of heaven and earth. In other words, it's the power to control nature. It's not surprising that Chu Kuangren can control the blizzard. But isn't this a bit too much? The blizzard that was 100 times stronger than before filled the sky, obscuring everyone's vision. They could not help but channel their spiritual power to resist it. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu, on the other hand, stood where they were, unaffected. The blizzard automatically changed its direction when it approached them. Look! Suddenly, Guisan exclaimed and looked at the sky. Everyone looked over and sucked in a breath of cold air. In the sky, dark clouds gathered and formed a huge black vortex. Within the vortex, runes appeared one after another, turning into a white sword of wind and snow. The sword of wind and snow, which was over 1,000 feet long, floated above everyone's heads. A terrifying chill swept through the world, causing everyone to shiver. The chill spread out, and all the rivers within 1,000 miles froze. What a terrifying chill! What on earth is the power of this sword? F***ck, if anyone dares to tell me that his cultivation is sealed, I'll slap his mouth. Is this what you call having no cultivation at all? Everyone on the scene was shocked. Especially the arrogant Shaolintian, whose face turned slightly pale because he was the target of the blizzard sword. Compared to the others, the pressure he felt was even more terrifying. How could this be? How did his runes reach such a level? Shaolintian's face was filled with disbelief. He channeled all of his spiritual power, pushed his heavenly divine imperial physique to its limit, and formed his divine honorable avatar. He looked up into the sky. Not only that, but a spiritual thought shot out from his body and turned into an old man in a golden robe. That old man was the current Heavenly Golden Palace sect leader, sage ruler Chongqing. What appeared now was a spiritual thought clone of his. What's going on? Sage ruler Chongqing could not help but gasp at the sight of the 1,000 feet long blizzard sword in the sky as soon as he appeared. Even he would have a hard time blocking that sword. Sect leader, it's Chu Kuangren. Shaolintian said loudly. Sage ruler Chongqing looked at Chu Kuangren, who was wrapped in a cloak, and yelled, "Chu Kuangren, stop it now!" However, Chu Kuangren ignored him and spat out a single word. Fall. Boom. A large portion of the void seemed to be frozen by the chill. Endless snowstorms gathered on the blizzard sword that was formed by intertwining runes, and it suddenly fell. A minute. Sage ruler Chongqing could not care less anymore. He channeled the power of this spiritual thought clone to its limit and unleashed a palm attack. The palm chi turned into a golden torrent that surged towards the blizzard sword. In less than a breath's time, the golden torrent was eroded by the chill and was frozen into countless pieces of frost. How is this possible? Sage ruler Chongqing's pupils shrank as he roared and channeled all his power. However, how much power could he, who was merely an incarnation of his spiritual will, exert? He could not block this sword of wind and snow at all. The sword chi landed on sage ruler Chongqing's body and shattered him. Shaolintian, who was left behind, roared and channeled his divine honorable avatar to its limit. Both of his hands gripped the blizzard sword tightly. However, the chill invaded the divine honorable avatar's arms and gradually froze the entire avatar. In the end, it turned into frost and disappeared. At the last moment, Shaolintian activated some kind of secret technique to forcefully increase his strength and break out of the blizzard sword's range. However, he was too close to the blizzard sword. When the sword landed on the ground, the entire divine predictor city trembled. The blizzard that swept out enveloped the entire area. Especially where Shaolintian was, the blizzard runic power was so dense that it was almost solid. Even if he managed to escape the fate of being hit by the blizzard sword, he could not escape the fate of being frozen by the blizzard. Let's go. Chu Kuangren tightened his cloak and turned to leave. Lan Yu held the umbrella for him and followed closely behind. Master, where are we going next? Next stop, Craggy Ocean Tower. Chu Kuangren's voice drifted into everyone's ears along with the blizzard. When the blizzard's power gradually dissipated, everyone walked out and looked at Chu Kuangren's departing figure with fear in their eyes. That's terrifying. This level of runic Tao is just too terrifying. Look! Someone exclaimed and pointed to a spot not far away. At the spot where the blizzard had dissipated stood an ice statue. That ice statue looked extremely lifelike with a horrified expression on its face. It's Shaolintian. He's frozen. Everyone walked up to him. Feng Yarao curiously reached out her hand to touch him. Then, as if she had been electrocuted, she instantly retracted her hand. It's so cold. Her fingers had already turned purple from the cold. If just a touch is so terrifying, then wouldn't the frozen Shaolintian be? Before Feng Yaorao could finish her sentence, everyone saw Xiao Lintian, who had been frozen into an ice statue, shatter into pieces of ice crystals. He was as dead as a doornail. Gulp. Everyone could not help but gulp, and the fear in their eyes became even more intense. Even someone as strong as Xiao Lintian could not block Chu Kuangren's runic sword. Just how strong was that person? Why do I feel like he's even more terrifying now that he's sealed? Guosan said with a trembling voice. I think he said he was going somewhere? Craggy Ocean Tower. Everyone looked in the same direction. It was the direction of the Craggy Ocean Tower. They all knew that the Craggy Ocean Tower was about to face an unprecedentedly terrifying existence. Chapter 451. Heavenly Golden Palace. Inside a palace, sage ruler Chongqing suddenly opened his eyes. His face turned pale as he stared into the distance. His eyes were filled with fear, and he even felt a chill down his spine. Chu Kuangren! Chu Kuangren! Why are you always against the Heavenly Golden Palace? You destroyed my spiritual will incarnation, and killed the proud sons of heaven of my divine palace. This is not over. Their grudge with Chu Kuangren had reached an irreconcilable point. There was no possibility of reconciliation. We must pay close attention to Chu Kuangren's movements. He's going to the Craggy Ocean Tower soon, so we must keep an eye on him, sage ruler Chongqing murmured. They had to figure out where Chu Kuangren's limits were. The Craggy Ocean Tower was an unknown land in the past. Now it was one of the top orthodoxies in the firmament star. There was no lack of great sages and even saint kings among them. In the firmament star, no one dared to underestimate such an orthodoxy. But today, all the cultivators of this orthodoxy were on high alert, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Surrounding the Craggy Ocean Tower were countless ferocious Craggy Ocean bestial souls. There were tens of thousands of them, and their cultivation bases ranged from the Battle Monarch realm to the Honorable realm. There were even sages among them. This was the Craggy Ocean Tower's protective array, the Craggy Ocean Grand Array. The array was filled with Craggy Ocean bestial souls that the Craggy Ocean Tower had collected and refined over the years. There were many different types of monsters and beasts within the array. In one of the palaces of the Craggy Ocean Tower, the Craggy Ocean Tower Lord and the elders were gathered together. It had been 2 days since Chu Kuangren delivered the Crimson Challenge letter. If there were no accidents, the other party should be here by now. The entire Craggy Ocean Tower was on high alert. He's here. The Craggy Ocean Tower Lord suddenly said in a solemn tone. The elders beside him immediately looked into the distance when they heard him. Their gazes pierced through the clouds and landed outside the mountain gate of the Craggy Ocean Tower. They saw a man and a woman standing outside the Craggy Ocean formation. These two people were Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. He's finally here. I've been waiting for a long time. Today, let's make sure they don't return. A few elders said fiercely. In order to deal with Chu Kuangren's arrival, they had made many preparations. They believed that even a sage ruler would not be able to escape alive. As far as he knew, Chu Kuangren had no spiritual power and could not wield an emperor weapon. No matter how strong he was, he could never surpass the level of a sage ruler. Outside the Craggy Ocean Tower, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived outside the Mountain Sea formation. What goes around comes around. Looking at the Mountain Sea formation before him, Chu Kuangren chuckled. In the past, they were the ones who came to destroy the Black Heaven Sex formation. Now it's my turn to destroy theirs. It's a pity this formation isn't the astonishing Cloud of Seas formation, and I'm not them. The wind in the Craggy Ocean Tower is really noisy today. Chu Kuangren lifted his foot and walked into the Mountain Sea formation. In an instant, dozens of Mountain Sea origin souls rushed forward. These bestial souls came in all shapes and sizes. There were jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards, and each of them exuded a ferocious aura as they charged towards Chu Kuangren to devour him. Clang! The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist automatically unsheathed itself. Sword chi sword wreaking havoc in the void. One by one, the bestial souls were easily torn apart. Even without Chu Kuangren's control, the descendant self-sword was still a boundary emperor weapon with a sword soul. It possessed terrifying lethality. The descendant self-sword shuttled back and forth around Chu Kuangren, emitting sword chi like a blade storm. All the Mountain Sea origin souls that got close to it were easily torn apart. None of them could even get close to Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. The two of them strolled towards the craggy ocean tower's grand hall. The further they went, the stronger the bestial souls became. In the end, even sage-level bestial souls appeared. Chu Kuangren shook his head and sighed. What a shame. If Lil Red were here, all she needed to do was bark a few times, and these bestial souls wouldn't dare to move. Lil Red was a godly phoenix, a divine beast. The domineering aura that came from her bloodline and soul was enough to make these Mountain Sea origin souls surrender. Well, it doesn't matter. Chu Kuangren chuckled. With a lift of his arm, the surrounding spiritual power converged and transformed into a giant golden sword. Violent runic sword chi dispersed, and wherever it went, the craggy sea bestial souls were shredded into pieces. That single sword strike wiped out all the bestial souls along the way. A huge path appeared before Chu Kuangren. Let's go. The two of them had a smooth journey. The elders of the craggy ocean tower were dumbfounded. The craggy ocean formation that they were so proud of was so fragile before Chu Kuangren. It could not even stop him for a second. He's much stronger than we thought. Is this Chu Kuangren's true strength? The craggy ocean tower members looked grim. By then, Chu Kuangren had arrived at the mountain entrance of the craggy ocean tower. There was no one guarding the entrance. Chu Kuangren used his spiritual thought and soon found that the craggy ocean tower members had gathered in front of the grand hall at the mountain peak. Are they trying to gather their forces and fight me to the death? Their courage is commendable. Too bad it's useless. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and walked towards the mountain peak. There was a flight of bluestone stairs leading to the mountain peak. There were thousands of steps, and Chu Kuangren walked up like a mortal. Lan Yu followed closely behind him. On the mountain peak, the tens of thousands of craggy ocean tower disciples watched as Chu Kuangren made his way up. They did not dare to be careless. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was walking at a brisk pace as if he was just taking a stroll up the mountain. As time passed, Chu Kuangren got closer and closer to the mountain peak. In front of the grand hall, everyone's expression became more and more serious. The entire grand hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was nervously preparing for battle. A formless murderous aura enveloped the entire mountain peak. Suddenly, some of the craggy ocean bestial souls seemed to have sensed something and let out an uneasy growl. When Chu Kuangren was halfway up the mountain, a formless fluctuation emanated from his body. One by one, runes condensed around his body and transformed into runic swords. It was a golden runic sword that emanated a sharp aura. Chu Kuangren then took another step forward, and another runic sword was formed. It was an aqua-blue runic sword that surged with surging torrential force. Just like that, a runic sword appeared beside him every time he climbed up the stairs. The number of runic swords around him increased, and they even contained all sorts of natural Taoist rhymes. When Chu Kuangren was about to reach the top of the mountain, his surroundings were already densely covered with countless runic swords. There were fire runic swords, blizzard runic swords, mountain river runic swords, lightning runic swords, sun and moon runic swords. When Chu Kuangren officially reached the top, the boundless runic aura that emanated from the countless runic swords enveloped the entire mountain peak. All the craggy ocean tower disciples felt their mouths go dry when they saw the countless runic swords. It was as if 100,000 mountains were pressing down on them, making it difficult for them to move. There was only one person in front of them, but they felt like he was the entire world. What they were doing was making the entire world their enemy. When everyone was shocked by the countless runic swords before them, Chu Kuangren announced, "My name is Chu Kuangren. Today, I'm here to annihilate your sect with these runic swords." Chapter 452. Boundless Runic Swords, Boundless Nature's Domineering Aura. Chu Kuangren carried a sky full of runic swords that contained boundless nature's Taoist rhymes as he ascended the craggy ocean tower. All the craggy ocean tower disciples were ready to attack. All the great ones who were observing from the shadows were terrified. Kill! Without wasting any time, the craggy ocean tower disciples immediately attacked with all sorts of energy surges towards Chu Kuangren. Boundless energy turned into a monstrous torrent that shook the heavens and earth. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground with a calm expression. "I am one with nature. How dare you go against the heavens and earth?" He gently moved his finger. In an instant, the sky full of runic swords behind him shot out. Thousands of them. Thousands of runes shot out like rain, and each of them contained an extremely terrifying pressure. The power of wind and frost, the power of lightning, and so on exploded with a loud rumble. They were wrapped in the Taoist rhyme of the sword and tore apart the torrent of energy. A disciple of the venerable realm roared as he stared at the runic sword flying towards him. A mountain and sea origin soul materialized from his body and rushed out with a roar. However, it was unable to obstruct the sword at all. Before the runic swords, his craggy ocean bestial soul was as fragile as a thin piece of paper, and was easily torn apart. Even when he channeled his spiritual power to its limit, he still could not defend against the runic swords. With a boom, that disciple was torn into pieces by the sword chi. Even an honorable realm disciple was reduced to such a state. Not to mention the other disciples. In the face of the sky full of runic swords, they were like weeds. Wherever the runic swords passed, they were easily harvested. The elders of the craggy ocean tower were enraged by what they saw. "Chu Kuangren, how dare you?" one of the sages roared. He summoned a craggy ocean bestial soul and charged towards Chu Kuangren. However, it was futile. Chu Kuangren killed sages like he was killing dogs. Ordinary sages were no threat to him at all. A rune sword shot out fiercely. That runic sword was much stronger than the others. As soon as the sword chi passed through, the craggy ocean bestial soul and the sages were all killed. "Let's attack together," the sages of the craggy ocean tower roared. They then surrounded Chu Kuangren and released their craggy ocean bestial souls. Their bestial souls were much stronger than the others, and all of them possessed the combat strength of a sage. Including the bestial souls, there were as many as 20 sages surrounding Chu Kuangren. There were even 5 great sages among them. And the craggy ocean tower lord, the holy king, used the mountain river secret medicine. The craggy ocean tower lord said. He took out a pill and threw it to his mountain sea origin spirit. His origin soul was a golden rock. After the rock consumed the pill, its golden eyes gradually became bloodshot. With a long cry, its body began to expand, becoming 2 or 3 times larger. When its wings were spread out, they were hundreds of feet long and looked extremely imposing. The other elders also fed their mountain and sea source spirits a secret medicine, causing their source spirit strength to wildly increase. The effects of this secret medicine were powerful, but after using it, these bestial souls would enter a long period of debilitation, and would no longer be able to battle. However, in order to deal with Chu Kuangren, they did not think too much about it. "Go!" At his command, more than 10 extremely powerful bestial souls who had consumed the secret medicine charged towards Chu Kuangren. Their ferocious chi was so strong that it stirred up the winds and clouds. The runic swords around Chu Kuangren were unleashed. However, even though his rune swords were powerful and numerous, it was not easy for him to kill these origin souls who were comparable to great saints. With a move of his spiritual thoughts, the rune swords around him shattered and turned into mysterious runes. Then they all gathered together to form a colorful sword of nature that contained infinite power. "Go!" The sword of nature swept out. Although the bestial soul's strength was comparable to a great sage's, it was still not enough against this sword. As the sword chi swept past, the bestial souls were easily crushed. Avarice Palm. Mystical Chongqi Palm. While Chu Kuangren was dealing with the bestial souls, the sages and sage rulers took the opportunity to attack. Their surging Taoist rhymes erupted and turned into a ferocious beast's palm energy. However, when the palm energy was about to land on Chu Kuangren, a black veil suddenly appeared and blocked the palm energy. It was Lan Yu. She had used her Boundary Emperor weapon to block all the attacks. "It's a Boundary Emperor weapon. This guy has a Boundary Emperor weapon to protect himself." The craggy ocean tower sages were shocked. The craggy ocean tower used to have a Boundary Emperor weapon too, which was the craggy ocean scroll. However, 3 years ago, when the previous craggy ocean tower lord brought this item to the Black Heaven sect, the scroll was lost and ended up in Chu Kuangren's hands. "I'll destroy this Boundary Emperor weapon." The craggy ocean tower lord roared as a surge of spiritual power, and an extremely powerful Taoist rhyme appeared on his body. In an instant, 4 ferocious beast silhouettes appeared around him. They were the Cheong Qi. Avarice, and Tao, the 4 chaotic beasts. These 4 beasts emanated an endless ferocious chi as they charged towards the Black Veil. Their terrifying strength was even stronger than the previous craggy ocean tower lords, causing the veil to tremble a few times. Chu Kuangren activated his spiritual thought upon seeing that. The surrounding spiritual chi surged and converged towards him. 4 golden rune swords manifested. 4 swords against 4 ferocious beasts. When the 2 forces collided, the entire mountain peak collapsed, and the sea of clouds within a 1,000-kilometer radius rumbled and surged. One by one, the disciples were sent flying by the powerful energy. The sages could not help but channel their spiritual power to defend themselves. Chu Kuangren and the craggy ocean tower lord took the brunt of the impact. The craggy ocean tower lord was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground and did not budge an inch. The terrifying impact was completely nullified by the Black Veil. "Is this all you've got?" Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He gently lifted his arm, and the runic swords that covered half the sky once again condensed. A majestic pressure then enveloped everyone. "Chu Kuangren, if you really destroy the craggy ocean tower, aren't you afraid that the world will attack you for what you've done?" The craggy ocean tower lord said loudly. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh. "The world will attack me? Heh, didn't I already do that? Since I'm no longer tolerated by the world, I won't tolerate them either. Let them come. I'd like to see what they can do to me." Chu Kuangren laughed as a terrifying surge of sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted from his body. It soared into the sky and swept across the land. Above his head, the runic swords seemed to be resonating with the sword-based Taoist rhyme, and the sound of the swords ringing echoed through the clouds. Everyone looked at the white-robed figure and gulped. One man dared to go against the entire world. What kind of courage and capability was that? So this is the Chu Kuangren who has been famous since 3 years ago. There's only one Chu Kuangren in history. The newly ascended sage who had previously declared that he would take Chu Kuangren's head was already pale. He had lost all will to fight. All the great ones who were secretly observing fell silent as well. It was the same 3 years ago, and it was still the same 3 years later. The entire world was suppressed by a single person. Chapter 453. Chu Kuangren, if you were born in my craggy ocean tower, I wouldn't mind kowtowing and burning incense for you every day, the craggy ocean tower lord suddenly said. He looked at Chu Kuangren with a complicated expression that was mixed with amazement and pity. The crowd was in an uproar when they heard him say that. They did not expect the craggy ocean tower lord to have such high regard for Chu Kuangren. Not only him, but the great ones who were secretly observing had similar thoughts as well. To them, Chu Kuangren was too outstanding. He was worthy of being called the first person in history. If such a person were born in their orthodoxy, it would be a great help to them. So what if they kowtowed to him and worshipped him like an ancestor? Too bad you're not. That's why you and the craggy ocean tower are destined to fight to the death. The craggy ocean tower lord's eyes turned cold. He let out a long roar, and a surge of Taoist rhyme gushed out of his body and gradually enveloped the entire craggy ocean tower. Vaguely, a low roar came from the depths of the craggy ocean tower. The roar was like thunder that shook hundreds of kilometers. It also contained a strange energy that made the bestial souls of all the cultivators who heard it tremble. It was as if even their souls were shaken. A terrifying existence had been awakened. Roar! While everyone was still in shock, an even louder roar erupted. The mountains and rivers within a 10,000-kilometer radius trembled, and countless beasts fell to the ground. A terrifying ferocious chi spread out from somewhere in the craggy ocean tower. The great ones who were secretly observing were shocked. This aura is not to be underestimated. What is it? Chu Kuangren also looked into the distance curiously. It seems like the craggy ocean tower still has some tricks up their sleeves. He raised his hand to activate the rune sword in the sky and swung it. The runic swords rained down like a torrential downpour. Boom, 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 the entire mountain range was reduced to ashes under the attack of the runic swords, and the billowing dust covered a 1,000-kilometer radius. Even a sage ruler might not be able to withstand such an attack. However, the roar did not stop. With the roar, a violent gust of wind swept out. The surrounding dust dissipated. A fierce beast soar spirit appeared in front of everyone. This ferocious beast's entire body was crimson like a cheetah. Its eyes were like glazed crystals, it had 5 tails, and there was a single horn on its head. The breath it exhaled was like raging flames, burning the surrounding vegetation into ashes. When Chu Kuangren saw this bestial soul, he activated his Eye of Revelation. Compared to other abilities, the Eye of Revelation didn't need the support of spiritual power. The usage of this divine power relied more on spiritual power. In an instant, the beast's information appeared in front of him. Ho! An ancient ferocious beast from the firmament star. Its voice has a soul-sucking effect. It specializes in fire elemental Tao and is currently in the form of a bestial soul. Teach, this is a real vicious beast source spirit. Chu Kuangren said in surprise. 3 years ago, when the craggy ocean tower was attacking the Black Heaven sect, they had summoned the gluttonous devouring beast, Chongqi, Taowu, and the chaotic 4 ferocious beasts. However, the craggy ocean tower had only imitated and refined the 4 beasts based on ancient records. They could not be considered as true bestial souls. But this Ho in front of him was a true vicious beast origin soul. Its cultivation level was as high as a sage ruler. As a wild beast, its combat strength would definitely surpass that of an ordinary sage ruler. Chu Kuangren estimated that it was on par with a 5-step sage ruler. Aside from boundary emperors, this was the strongest sage ruler Chu Kuangren had ever encountered. Even the serpent deity was no match for it. Chu Kuangren. This is a craggy ocean bestial soul. Ho left behind by the craggy ocean tower's ancestors. Today, I shall use it to kill you. The craggy ocean tower lord said loudly. A surge of Taoist rhyme flowed around his body, summoning the ferocious beast in the distance. The ferocious beast stepped through the air, its ferocious chi surging violently. Wherever it went, the void trembled. One by one, the mountains crumbled under the ferocious beast's charge. The craggy ocean tower's disciples were dumbfounded by its power. What a terrifying bestial soul. I can't believe our craggy ocean tower has such power. It was obvious that the Ho's existence was a top secret within the craggy ocean tower. Apart from the craggy ocean tower lord and a few elders, no one else knew about it. Soon the Ho arrived on top of Chu Kuangren's head. Its crimson-red body exuded a powerful aura of oppression. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and condensed a runic sword before he slashed out. The runic swords rained down on the Ho's body, but they were all blocked by its ferocious chi. This Ho is a little tricky, Chu Kuangren murmured. The Ho opened its mouth and spat out a ball of scorching flames. The surrounding void was almost warped by the scorching heat. The craggy ocean tower's disciples who were close to the Ho were instantly incinerated. This is bad. Retreat. Get away from this place. The sages yelled. The Ho was a wild beast. Wild beasts, on the other hand, were ferocious by nature. Coupled with the fact that they had been refined into a bestial soul, they were even more vengeful. Although the craggy ocean tower lord was controlling them, all they cared about was getting rid of Chu Kuangren. They did not care about the lives of the other craggy ocean tower disciples. The flames landed on the black cloak, causing it to tremble. However, that power was not enough to break through the boundary emperor weapon's defense. Chu Kuangren raised his hand, and the surrounding spiritual power surged. Countless runes formed in the void, forming a giant runic sword. Dream on! At that moment, the craggy ocean tower lord made his move. He unleashed a punch and shattered the runes in the air. Chu Kuangren would need some time to condense a runic sword strong enough to kill the Meng beast. However, the craggy ocean tower lord and the Meng beast would not give him that time. Both sides were locked in a fierce battle. The Meng beast and the craggy ocean tower lord continued to attack the black cloak, trying to break through the boundary emperor weapon's defense. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren unleashed his runic swords one after another. Although it was powerful, it was not enough to hurt his opponent. The battle was at a stalemate. Roar! At that moment, the Ho let out a furious roar. That roar contained a soul-stealing effect. Lan Yu was affected, and a gap appeared in the black cloak's defense, giving the craggy ocean tower lord an opening. The other sages also seized the opportunity. Quick, now! Attack! All the sages attacked at once. Surges of Taoist rhymes erupted and surged towards Chu Kuangren, breaking through the black cloak's defense. However, at that moment, A runic barrier formed by intertwining runes appeared in front of Chu Kuangren. It emanated an indestructible Taoist rhyme. The sage's attacks landed on the runic barrier, but they were all blocked. What? Chu Kuangren is not affected by the Meng beast's roar. That's a spiritual attack. The sage's eyes shrunk in disbelief. The Ho's roar had a soul-stealing effect. Once it unleashed its full power, even the strongest sage would be affected. However, Chu Kuangren was not affected at all. Little did they know that Chu Kuangren had the conjurer talent, which allowed his spiritual thoughts to block out spiritual attacks. Coupled with his rock-solid Taoist core, he would not be affected even if the Meng beast's roar was 10 times stronger. Beside him, Lan Yu regained her senses and reactivated the black cloak to protect the two of them. She stared at the Meng beast cautiously. She guarded her mind against the Meng beast's next roar. However, the Meng beast only roared but did not attack again. It was obvious that the Meng beast's roar could not be used casually. It had some kind of limitation. Chapter 454. The ferocious roar was completely useless against Chu Kuangren. The craggy ocean tower lord and the others were shocked. After all, the ferocious roar was a direct attack that even a sage ruler could not resist. Such an ability could be said to be their biggest trump card against Chu Kuangren. However, they did not expect that it would be completely useless. The ferocious roar consumed a large portion of the Chi's soul energy every time it was used. Hence, it could only be used once a day. Now that you guys have revealed your trump cards, it's my turn, Chu Kuangren said. He looked up into the sky. It's almost done. The crowd did not know what he meant, but they instinctively felt that something was wrong. They quickly looked up into the sky. In the sky, lines of mysterious runes crisscrossed and converged to form a gigantic mystical rune. This talisman blotted out the sky and covered the entire mountain peak. The crowd could sense an indescribable mysterious energy from the rune. It was as if the surrounding spiritual chi had been sucked dry. Fall! Chu Kuangren commanded. In an instant, the gigantic rune fell from the sky, and the crowd channeled their spiritual energies to resist it. However, when the rune landed on their bodies, they did not feel any damage at all. They could not help but feel confused. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. The space around them seemed to have been sealed by an unknown force, turning it into a huge quagmire. They could not even move a finger. This is a spatial rune. The most complicated spatial rune among all runes. How did he create a spatial rune that can seal even a sage? I can't believe his runic mastery has reached such a level. The sages at the scene looked terrified. Even the scarlet beast could not move under the pressure of the rune. This rune took a lot of my spiritual thoughts. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then, he raised his hand and formed runic swords in the void. They were like a sky full of stars that hung above everyone's heads. Surges of runic aura spread. The craggy ocean tower lord and the others channeled their spiritual energies to break free from the spatial rune's seal. However, the rune's power was too strong. Even a sage ruler would not be able to break free in a short amount of time. That time was enough for Chu Kuangren to destroy the entire craggy ocean tower. Chu Kuangren, stop. Stop right now. The craggy ocean tower lord roared in a frenzy. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about them at all. He raised his hand and pressed it down on the ground. Instantly, countless runic swords fell from the sky like falling stars, covering the entire craggy ocean tower. The deafening rumbles shook the surrounding area. This was especially true for the craggy ocean tower lord. Chu Kuangren paid special attention to the mountain peak where the menacing beast was. Most of his runic swords landed there. A terrifying rune energy spread out, shaking the void. It also shook the hearts of all the almighties who were secretly watching the battle. They had never seen anyone who could use the Tao of runes to such an extent. This kind of technique was like the supreme king of runes. After the terrifying runic storm, the entire craggy ocean tower was riddled with holes and cracks. In the entire craggy ocean tower, there were only a few people left standing. Severed limbs and flesh splattered everywhere. It was like purgatory on earth. The air was filled with the nauseating smell of blood. On top of the mountain, almost all of the craggy ocean tower sages were killed. Even the bodies of the sages were as fragile as paper under the bombardment of the runes. The menacing beast had also dissipated. Even a sage ruler like the craggy Ocean Tower Lord was covered in wounds. He looked around at the craggy Ocean Tower and the countless disciples who were wailing on the ground. His eyes were filled with despair. He looked at Chu Kuangren and yelled, "Chu Kuangren, your actions are no different from the demonic Tao. With your cruel nature, you will be punished by the heavens one day. I curse you to die a horrible death." Chu Kuangren's expression did not change in the slightest in the face of the craggy Ocean Tower Lord's curses. 3 years ago, if I didn't use the heavenly tribulation to annihilate a million-strong army of cultivators, do you think the Black Heaven sect's fate would be any better than the craggy Ocean Towers? No one can get away scot-free after doing something wrong. Be it mortals or sages, they're all the same. Chu Kuangren said calmly as 2 runic swords appeared in his hands. The craggy Ocean Tower only has themselves to blame for what happened today. Besides, I've given you guys a chance. I've sent someone to inform you guys to leave if you don't want to die. You're the one who gathered all of the craggy Ocean Tower's disciples to deal with me. It was your stupidity that caused everyone's death. Chu Kuangren's words were as sharp as knives. Every word he uttered pierced into the craggy Ocean Tower Lord's heart, causing his face to turn even paler. Not only did he want to kill, but he also wanted to destroy their hearts. "All right, on your way to the underworld, go and slowly make amends to your disciples." Chu Kuangren raised his hand slightly after he finished speaking. 2 rune swords shot out. One sword pierced through the other party's heart, and the other cut off the other party's head. A saint king had fallen completely. A top-notch orthodoxy had completely vanished into thin air. Everyone who witnessed this scene was speechless. Their hearts were filled with speechless astonishment. This was the unknown place of the past. This was a top-notch orthodoxy that had been passed down for close to 100,000 years. But now, it had been completely annihilated in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone stared at Chu Kuangren, who was standing in the middle of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. His white robes were as clean as ever, and their hearts were shrouded in a thick sense of fear. A top-notch orthodoxy had been annihilated by a single person. After 3 years, Chu Kuangren had returned to the world. Even with the heavenly punishment seal on him, he had displayed even more terrifying combat strength. 5 more, Chu Kuangren murmured. His voice was not loud, but everyone could hear him clearly. Everyone knew what he meant by 5 more. He was referring to the remaining 5 orthodoxies. The great ones of the Acheron Manor, the Bottomless Chasm, the Sacred Palace of Death, the Ethereal Rapture, and the Heavenly Golden Palace were shocked. The craggy Ocean Tower had been annihilated. What about them? Would they be able to survive? No one knew, but no one dared to underestimate the heavenly punishment seal on Chu Kuangren anymore. They had to gather all their strength to deal with him. After annihilating the craggy Ocean Tower, Chu Kuangren cleaned up the battlefield. He went to the largest treasure vault in the craggy Ocean Tower and stored all the resources inside into his yin and yang ring. Then he found a chest in the treasure vault. Inside the chest were strange spheres with mysterious soul fluctuations circulating around them. These are bestial soul seeds. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he saw the chest of bestial soul seeds. Bestial soul seeds were the secret technique that the craggy Ocean Tower's cultivators used to summon the craggy ocean bestial souls into battle. Every cultivator who had refined the bestial soul seed would obtain a bestial soul as a battle companion. There were strong and weak bestial souls, but it was undeniable that this technique was extremely mystical. This chest of bestial soul seeds was also extremely valuable, and it could be considered the craggy Ocean Tower's greatest treasure vault. Let's bring this chest of bestial soul seeds back. When the time comes, Nangong Huang and the others can each pick one of them and keep them as pets, Chu Kuangren said with a satisfied smile. Chapter 455. The news of Chu Kuangren annihilating the craggy Ocean Tower spread like wildfire across the entire firmament star. Every cultivator who received the news was shocked. After all, that was a top-notch orthodoxy that had many sages guarding it. Yet now it was gone just like that. It was single-handedly annihilated by a single person. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, who was already the center of attention, did not immediately head to the next orthodoxy for revenge after annihilating the craggy Ocean Tower. Instead, he brought Lan Yu with him and disappeared. All those who wanted to track down his whereabouts had not succeeded. Inside the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Changqin was extremely worried. Chu Kuangren's strength is much more terrifying than I thought. It won't be easy to kill him now. Sigh. Sage ruler Changqin sighed. At this point, he was starting to blame the previous heavenly golden palace lord. Why did you go and provoke that monster? Now he had to deal with this problem himself. Sage ruler Changqin was so worried that his hair had turned white. At this moment, an incredibly powerful aura suddenly erupted from one of the mountains in the heavenly golden palace. It was as if a heavenly venerable had descended and swept across the entire heavenly golden palace. Not only that, but the terrifying aura continued to spread. In the blink of an eye, it had spread across half of Firmament Star. All the great ones on Firmament Star were shocked and looked towards the direction of the heavenly golden palace suspiciously. This aura. Someone is about to become a sage. Such a powerful sage aura. All the great ones activated their spiritual thoughts and scanned the direction of the heavenly golden palace. Soon they locked onto the source of the aura. On one of the mountains in the heavenly golden palace, a gust of wind blew and clouds surged. Rays of light appeared in the sky and formed into a colorful tribulation cloud. A colorful tribulation cloud. Since Chu Kuangren 3 years ago, a colorful tribulation cloud had appeared. All the great ones were shocked. Following that, a young man with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes slowly walked out from one of the caves on the mountain peak. It's the young master. The young master has come out of his closed-door meditation. Not only that, but he's also going to ascend. The elders of the heavenly golden palace were excited. Not only them, but even sage ruler Changqin was excited. It's Xiao Jingchen. The Sky Pride ranked 3rd on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. A Sky Pride from the 9 heavens. Rumor has it that this person was a Sky Pride from the heavenly golden palace tens of thousands of years ago. However, he entered the Misty Sea, a forbidden land, and no one has heard from him since. However, 3 years ago, he suddenly returned from the 9 heavens, declaring that he would fight for the throne of this world. Correct. Rumor has it that this person slaughtered saints like dogs. A year ago, he went into seclusion, and now that he has come out, he wants to become a saint. He actually caused such a commotion. It's the rainbow heavenly tribulation. This is the second time I've seen a rainbow heavenly tribulation since Chu Kuangren. Can this person really fight against Chu Kuangren? Let's wait and see. Xiao Jingchen stood proudly under the heavenly tribulation. The Taoist rhymes of the heavenly golden imperial physique circulated, and it was incomparably domineering, as if it could suppress the heavens. Compared to Xiao Lintian, his heavenly golden imperial physique was even more terrifying, and this was the true perfect heavenly golden imperial physique. 7-colored heavenly tribulation. Interesting. Since ancient times, only a handful of people have been able to overcome the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. I, Xiao Jingchen, am one of them. Xiao Jingchen murmured as his eyes lit up. Tens of thousands of years ago, he went to the forbidden area, the misty ocean, in search of an opportunity to become an emperor. However, to no avail. Instead, he entered the 9 heavens through the spatial rift there and joined a powerful orthodoxy. However, even in the 9 heavens tens of thousands of years ago, it was still the Dharma-ending era. In order to fight for the throne of this era, he chose to hibernate. He only woke up not long ago. The throne of this era belongs to me. Even the 7-colored heavenly tribulation can't stop me. Xiao Jingchen said, his body as straight as a sword. Boom! At that moment the first tribulation lightning struck. Xiao Jingchen threw out a punch and forcefully broke through the tribulation lightning in an extremely domineering manner. The terrifying strength of his punch shocked everyone. The second, third, fourth. As the tribulation lightning's strength increased, so did his fist energy. It was like a bottomless pit, so deep that one could not see the bottom. Everyone was in awe. Is this the true strength of the heavenly golden imperial physique? Compared to him, Xiao Lintian's strength is nothing. Is this the power of a Sky Pride from the 9 heavens? He's too powerful. Xiao Jingchen was in high spirits as he faced the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. He laughed loudly. The 7-colored heavenly tribulation is just SOSO. Heaven and earth trembled at his bold words. The tribulation clouds in the sky surged, An even more terrifying tribulation lightning struck. This time Xiao Jingchen was in a sorry state. He was barely able to handle the 6th and 7th tribulation lightning strikes. By the 8th tribulation lightning strike, he was already severely injured. I was too careless. Xiao Jingchen spat out a mouthful of blood. The aura of the heavenly golden imperial physique seemed a little weak. Everyone did not laugh at him. After all, this was the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. Boom! The 9th tribulation lightning struck. Seeing that the tribulation lightning was about to strike, Xiao Jingchen suddenly took out a black spear and thrust it out. A terrifying emperor's aura swept out. That's a monarch weapon! Everyone exclaimed. With the monarch weapon in hand, Xiao Jingchen barely survived the 9th tribulation lightning strike. Soon, the tribulation lightning dissipated. Rays of sage light descended from the sky. Xiao Jingchen was bathed in the sacred light, and his aura rose steadily. With his unparalleled talent and deep understanding of Taoist techniques, Xiao Jingchen had passed the boundary sage stage and became a sage. A sage aura that far surpassed the average sage swept out. All the disciples of the heavenly golden palace looked at Xiao Jingchen passionately. He's so powerful. Our young master is too powerful. He can even survive the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. Who else in the current heavenly tribulation can compare to him? Even Chu Kuangren is slightly weaker than him. But I heard that Chu Kuangren's 9-colored heavenly tribulation is even more terrifying than the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. So what? In the end, he was still sealed away by the heavenly punishment. He's definitely not as powerful as the young master now. That's right. Our young master is the strongest. Now that he has become a sage, his ranking on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard will surely change again. In the firmament star, the Great Ones and Sky Prides could not help but feel shocked when they sensed Xiao Jingchen's powerful aura after becoming a sage. Haha, Xiao Jingchen, I didn't expect you to become a sage before me. But I'll catch up soon. In a mountain range, a burly young man laughed as he looked towards the heavenly golden palace's direction while stepping on a giant bear. Around him and the giant bear, there were obvious signs of battle. The mountains within a 1,000-kilometer radius were all destroyed. It was as if dozens of sages were engaged in a chaotic battle. At another location, a black-robed woman with a metal mask on her face also looked towards the heavenly golden palace's direction. F***CK, I can't believe he became a sage before me. You're in the limelight. Just you wait. In a few days, I'll beat the crap out of you after I become a sage. The woman said angrily. She was in a bad mood. Behind her there was a thick fog. Low growls could be heard coming from within the fog as if it was a demonic beast from hell. What are you growling for? If you keep growling, I'll stew you. Sob sob. The thick fog let out 2 whimpers as if it was wronged. In the ancient battlefield, one of the 10 great forbidden areas. Oh, Xiao Jingchen has become a sage. Then I'll have to pick up the pace. I didn't expect there to be such a good place in the firmament star. It's the perfect place for me to become a sage. In a barren mountain range, a black-armored young man mumbled to himself. Behind him was a large group of tormented souls that exuded a monstrous murderous aura. As Xiao Jingchen became a sage, it triggered a chain reaction. Chapter 456. Inside the Heavenly Golden Palace. After Xiao Jingchen became a sage, the entire Heavenly Golden Palace was in an uproar. Many people looked at Xiao Jingchen with admiration. Some of the ladies even had stars in their eyes. Young master, congratulations on becoming a sage. Sage ruler Chongqing brought a group of sages to Xiao Jingchen. In terms of seniority, Xiao Jingchen was tens of thousands of years old, so it was not unusual for him to address him as young master. Yes. Xiao Jingchen smiled and nodded. He was very happy that he had become a sage through the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. He was one step closer to becoming an emperor. By the way, where's Xiao Lintian? Xiao Jingchen suddenly asked. Xiao Jingchen still cared a lot about Xiao Lintian, a sky pride who also had the heavenly golden imperial physique. He had even planned to train Xiao Lintian to be his right-hand man. The faces of sacred ruler Chongqing and the others darkened upon hearing his words. What happened? Xiao Jingchen asked with a frown. Young master, Xiao Lintian is dead. Sage ruler Chongqing took a deep breath and said. A cold murderous intent shot out from Xiao Jingchen's eyes. He had just become a sage, so he could not fully control his own aura. His sage aura swept out, pressuring everyone at the scene. Even sage ruler Chongqing could not help but feel his scalp tingle. So powerful. Is this the power of a sage with the heavenly golden imperial physique? Tell me what happened? Xiao Jingchen slowly retracted his aura and asked. Sage ruler Chongqing breathed a sigh of relief and told him everything about Xiao Lintian's challenge to Chu Kuangren. At the same time, he also told them about Chu Kuangren's information. Oh, Chu Kuangren? You mean the person who dragged hundreds of thousands of people with him during the 9-colored heavenly tribulation 3 years ago? Xiao Jingchen's eyes were filled with surprise. When he first heard about Chu Kuangren, he was also shocked. He did not expect such a person to exist in the firmament star. However, when he heard that Chu Kuangren had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal, he did not care anymore. After all, Chu Kuangren was just a mortal. Yet now Chu Kuangren had reappeared. A special rune technique? Now I'm a little interested in meeting this Chu Kuangren. However, I've only just ascended to a sage, so I'll need to spend a few days to stabilize myself. By then, I'll show him who's truly the best in this world. Xiao Jingchen waved his sleeve and said coldly. On the hidden dragon ranking, he was ranked 3rd. Before Chu Kuangren's appearance, the first place had always been empty. Now that Chu Kuangren had snatched the first place away from him as soon as he appeared, he was extremely displeased. He secretly made up his mind to snatch the first place back. In a desert, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu walked against the sandstorm. Mister, that aura just now was very strong. Was that a genius from the 9 heavens? Lan Yu asked curiously. Yes, it should be. He came from the direction of the heavenly golden palace, so he must be the 9 heavens sky pride, Xiao Jingchen, who was ranked 3rd on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard and is currently ranked 2nd. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He was not too concerned about it. The two of them walked in the desert for 2 days straight. Along the way, they saw many strange desert wonders. Then they came to a place that was filled with intense ferocious qi. This place was one of the 10 great forbidden areas of Firmament Star, the ancient battlefield. I wonder how the white-robed general is doing. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He was going to Acheron Manor to settle the score, but when he passed by the ancient battlefield, he decided to visit the white-robed general on a whim. After all, the white-robed general had promised to help him collect innate ferocious qi to forge a perfect supreme infallible tormented physique. Now that a few years had passed, Chu Kuangren wondered how the white-robed general was doing, and if it was enough to upgrade his infallible tormented physique to its complete form. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the ancient battlefield's core area. He took out the jade pendant that he used to contact the white-robed general. However, after half an hour, he still did not see the white-robed general. He continued to wait. After a day and a night, there was still no news. At that moment, Chu Kuangren realized that something was wrong. Did something happen? Chu Kuangren frowned as he released his spiritual thoughts to search for the ancient battlefield's core area. The desolate and barren scene appeared in his mind. Chu Kuangren searched carefully. However, he still could not find the white-robed general. Was he not at the ancient battlefield? That was not right. The tormented souls that were born in the ancient battlefield were closely connected to this place, so it was impossible for them to leave. Not even a sage ruler could do so. The white-robed general had also said that he could not leave this place. Could he be dead? That would explain why he could not find the white-robed general. However, who could kill the white-robed general, one of the ancient battlefield's 3 kings? Chu Kuangren did not make any immediate deductions and continued to search. Soon he found something. There was a palace in the ancient battlefield, and it was filled with a huge amount of ferocious qi that was so dense that it was almost solid. This ferocious qi was preventing Chu Kuangren's spiritual thoughts from probing inside. Oh, is the white-robed general here? Chu Kuangren murmured. Let's go in and take a look. There had to be an explanation for this. The white-robed general was collecting the innate ferocious qi for him, and his descendant Shang Qingxue was also a disciple who had gone through thick and thin with the Xiantian sect. Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu and stepped into the ancient battlefield's core area. A dense and familiar ferocious qi surged towards them. Lan Yu activated her light-based Taoist rhyme to defend against it. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's invisible mind power had formed an invisible barrier that isolated the ferocious qi. They were not tormented souls, so the ferocious qi was like a poisonous gas to them. Inhaling too much of it would be harmful. Both of them walked towards the palace in the ancient battlefield's core area. With their strength, the tormented souls that they encountered along the way were easily dealt with. They even collected a few surges of innate ferocious qi. A living person. Another living person has appeared in the ancient battlefield. Both of them encountered another tormented soul. This tormented soul's cultivation level was obviously not low, and it had gained sentience because of the innate ferocious qi. When it saw Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu, it could not help but be surprised. Chu Kuangren was quite concerned about what it said. Again? Could there be other living people in the ancient battlefield's core area besides him and Lan Yu? Who is this living person you're talking about? Chu Kuangren asked. You have no right to ask for that person's name. Go to hell. That tormented soul did not say another word and immediately attacked. He threw out a punch that was filled with ferocious qi. Forget it, I'll figure it out myself. Chu Kuangren raised his arm and unleashed a runic sword. The sword qi immediately pierced through the ferocious qi and pierced through the tormented soul. With a loud explosion, the tormented soul was instantly destroyed. Chu Kuangren raised his arm and grabbed a surge of innate ferocious qi with his mind power. He then threw it into his yin and yang ring. Let's continue. A few hours later, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the palace. Inside the palace, a middle-aged man in a blood-red robe who was surrounded by black ferocious qi abruptly opened his eyes. The aura of a living person doesn't belong to Master Taoist Sha. There's also a disgusting light aura as well. Who could it be? Chapter 457. Inside a palace at the center of the ancient battlefield, a tormented soul dressed in a blood-red robe slowly stood up with a terrifying ferocious qi emanating from his body as he stared outside the palace. After a while, cries of agony could be heard coming from outside the palace. One by one, the tormented souls were torn apart by the runic swords. A man and a woman slowly walked in and looked around the palace. It looked like they were visiting a tourist attraction. How dare you trespass into the Blood Fiend Temple? Do you have a death wish? The man in the blood-red robe stood up and locked his gaze on Chu Kuangren and the woman. Ferocious qi swirled around him as a huge domineering aura gushed out. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. Blood Fury Sage Ruler, one of the ancient battlefield's 3 sovereigns. After Chu Kuangren finished reading the information, he said, I'm only here to ask one thing. Where is the White-Robe General? Oh, you're here to look for the White-Robe General? Blood Fury Sage Ruler was surprised. I didn't expect a living person to step into the ancient battlefield to look for him. What a surprise. Who are you to him? None of your business. Where is he? He's locked up here. If you want to save him, you'll have to kill me first. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here with him. Blood Fury Sage Ruler grinned as his ferocious qi surged. I'll fulfill your wish then, Chu Kuangren said as he raised his arm to gather runes in the sky. Runic swords were formed one after another, encompassing everything in the world. The extremely powerful rune pressure almost instantly broke through Blood Fury Saint Ruler's ferocious aura pressure and enveloped him. At this moment, Saint King Shueisha, who was originally full of confidence because of his Saint Ruler cultivation, suddenly narrowed his eyes in shock. F***CKme. What kind of aura was this? The rune swords were like a meteor shower that pierced through the air. Blood Fury Sage Ruler roared as he took out a blood-red spear and waved it around, shattering the runic swords one by one. What terrifying runic energy! Who the hell is this person? The tormented souls of the ancient battlefield could not leave the ancient battlefield, so they did not know much about the outside world. They had never even heard of Chu Kuangren. 1, 2, 10, 100 more and more rune swords were smashed by Blood Fury Sage King, and the energy waves that were released caused the entire palace to shake. Damn it, if this goes on, there's no way we can win. Blood Fury Sage Ruler gritted his teeth as a vicious look flashed across his eyes. His figure turned into a blood-colored stream of light and shot towards Chu Kuangren. He ignored the runic sword that was coming at him, and only used his extremely clever movement techniques and battle experience to dodge it. Although he still sustained quite a few injuries, he had already arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. The blood-red spear in his hand was condensed with surges of blood-red ferocious qi, as if it had transformed into a ferocious water dragon that was about to tear at Chu Kuangren. Blood Flood Dragon Divine Killing Spear. This attack was so powerful that it almost pierced through the void. But at this moment a black veil appeared. The blood-colored flood dragon landed on the veil, causing circles of ripples to appear on the veil. The energy that escaped from the ripples tore the ground apart and shook the surroundings. What? This is a quasi-emperor weapon. Blood Fury Saint Ruler's pupils contracted. Chu Kuangren chuckled. A few runic swords were already floating above Blood Fury Sage Ruler's head, and they came crashing down like meteors. Boom! The rune swords pierced through Blood Fury Sage Ruler's body and pinned him to the ground. The runes that formed these rune swords were all saint-grade runes. Their Taoist rhymes were extremely terrifying, just like 100,000 mountains. Once Blood Fury Sage Ruler was pinned, he could not move at all. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and was about to end his opponent. However, at that moment, Blood Fury Sage Ruler's body released surges of blood-colored flames, and his aura instantly skyrocketed several times. He had ignited his tormented body. Rise! A violent ferocious qi erupted from Blood Fury Sage Ruler's body, instantly shattering the few runic swords that were nailed to his back. Then he got up and charged towards Chu Kuangren, the blood-red spear in his hand once again piercing the black veil. This time the black veil caved in, and the blood-red spear continued to approach Chu Kuangren as if it was going to pierce through him. Unfortunately, you're not strong enough. You've given me some time, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. A silver-white rune condensed in his palm and slowly rotated. It was an incredibly mysterious spatial rune. That spatial rune was exactly the same as the one Chu Kuangren used to suppress the countless sages in the craggy ocean tower. However, it was much smaller. It was the spatial freeze rune. As the name suggested, it could freeze space. This rune was also the most mysterious sage-grade rune recorded in the Elysium Emperor scripture. It was second only to an emperor-grade rune, and an ordinary talisman master would not be able to draw a trace of it even if they spent their entire lives. Even Chu Kuangren would need to spend some time to prepare. When he realized that Blood Fury Sage Ruler was a sage ruler, he had split a part of his spiritual thought to draw this rune. Although it was not as powerful as the one he used in the craggy ocean tower, it was still powerful enough to suppress Blood Fury Sage Ruler. The freeze rune was slowly formed. When that rune landed on the tip of the spear, a mysterious spatial fluctuation appeared and enveloped the space 10 feet around Blood Fury Sage Ruler. He was trapped inside, unable to move. D****. Blood Fury Sage Ruler burned his tormented physique to quickly dissolve the effects of the freeze rune. However, that amount of time was enough for Chu Kuangren to kill him. More than 10 runic swords converged and pierced through the air. Blood Fury Sage Ruler could not withstand the power of the runes and was instantly destroyed, his soul dispersing. All that was left was a large cloud of innate ferocious qi and a blood-colored spear. Chu Kuangren looked at the innate ferocious qi and smiled in satisfaction. Once I break the seal, this cloud of innate ferocious qi will be enough to upgrade my infallible tormented physique to its complete form. Of course, that was not Chu Kuangren's main purpose for coming here. His spiritual thought covered every corner of the palace, searching for the white-robed general's whereabouts. He found 2 places with restrictions, and if the white-robed general was really in this palace, he would be in one of them. He brought Lan Yu to the location of the first restriction, but he did not find the white-robed general. Instead, he found a black altar. There were 4 stone pillars on top of the black altar, and each of them was filled with an incredibly dense innate ferocious qi. The total amount of innate ferocious qi on these 4 stone pillars was a few times denser than the one he obtained from Blood Fury Sage Ruler. If tormented souls obtain innate ferocious qi, they will devour it immediately instead of keeping it. Why would they set up an altar like this? Then who did this? Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. He recalled that one of the tormented souls he met previously mentioned that there was a living person in the ancient battlefield. That person even addressed him as that lord? Could this be the work of that lord? That lord? TSK, who cares who it is? Since there's something good in front of me, I might as well take it. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and kept the entire altar into his yin and yang ring. After that, he went to another place with restrictions. A few 100 feet underground. In one of the cells, a white-robed man was tied up by several pitch-black chains. On his back, there were 2 spikes that looked like straws that were pierced into his spine. The other end of the spikes was connected to a giant bottle. Surges of black innate ferocious chi were continuously extracted from the white-robed man's body and injected into that bottle. That person was the white-robed general that Chu Kuangren was looking for. Chapter 458. TSK, this is the white-robed general, one of the 3 kings of the ancient battlefield. But now he's locked up here like a dog. Outside the cell, a tormented soul was giggling while playing with a mask in his hand. It was the mask that belonged to the white-robed general. However, it was now being played with by a tormented soul. Inside the cell, the white-robed general was silent. His long black hair was draped over his shoulders, covering half of his face. No one could see his true appearance. His aura was very weak as the innate ferocious chi in his body was constantly being extracted. The process was not very painful, but it was very long. Furthermore, his consciousness would gradually disappear. It was as if a person's blood had been completely drained. The innate ferocious chi was equivalent to his blood. The white-robed general was a half-human, half-tormented soul existence. It was not an easy task to extract the innate ferocious chi from his body. If it was an ordinary tormented soul, the innate ferocious chi could be extracted immediately after killing them. However, this was not the case for the white-robed general. The innate ferocious chi was closely intertwined with his dead body. Even if he was killed, the innate ferocious chi could not be extracted. The only way was to gradually extract the innate ferocious chi from his body, using a method similar to drawing blood. TSK, looking at him, I don't think he can hold on much longer. Master Daoist Sha is really amazing to be able to think of such a method to extract his innate ferocious chi. One of the tormented souls laughed. Hey, some of the adventurers that I've killed in the past mentioned you. They said that you were an ancient general who led an army of millions. It must be very impressive, right? Why don't you tell us about your glorious achievements? One of the tormented souls said playfully. However, the white-robed general did not respond to the tormented soul's teasing. He remained kneeling on the ground like a statue. The tormented souls were already used to it. For so many days, ever since he was captured, he had been quiet and uncommunicative. They teased him because they were bored. Especially since the target of their teasing was the famous white-robed general of the ancient battlefield, they were never tired of it. Some people would always feel an inexplicable sense of excitement when they saw a high and mighty figure fall from the clouds. This was especially so when they could humiliate the other party as they pleased without fear of revenge. Even for the tormented souls, this deep-rooted bad habit was difficult to get rid of. Creak! At this moment the chains rattled. The white-robed general suddenly raised his head and looked outside the dungeon. His eyes, hidden by his black hair, shone with a strange light. Why is there movement today? The tormented soul looked at the white-robed general in surprise. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps rang out. 2 figures slowly walked into the dungeon. Following their arrival, the originally dark dungeon fell into a strange silence. All the tormented souls looked at the 2 of them with their mouths agape. One had to know that this was the dungeon of the Bloodfiend Palace, and the one guarding it was the Bloodfiend Holy Ruler, one of the 3 kings of the ancient battlefield. How did the 2 of them get down? It's so dark, it's so uncomfortable. Chu Kuangren snapped his fingers. Several flame runes condensed and illuminated the surroundings. Who are you? Damn it, how did you get down here? The tormented souls around him immediately went on high alert. However, Chu Kuangren ignored them. With a lift of his hand, dozens of runic swords were formed. In just a few breaths' time, the dozen or so tormented souls were completely annihilated by the runic swords. Not a single one was spared. Senior, you look like you're in a sorry state. Chu Kuangren came to the front of the cage and teased. The white-robed general chuckled. I didn't expect you to find this place so quickly. It seems like your growth over the past few years has far exceeded my expectations. Where's the Bloodfiend Holy Ruler? Oh, he's dead. Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly. He casually broke open the cage and cut off the few chains that bound the white-robed general. Then, he looked at the iron spike on the white-robed general's back and said in amazement, "It shouldn't be a problem for me to pull this thing out, right?" "No problem." As soon as the white-robed general finished speaking, Chu Kuangren immediately used his mind power to pull the iron spike out. The iron spike that pierced through the white-robed general's spine was instantly pulled out. He could not help but gasp as his mouth twitched. "Oh, Senior, you can still feel pain. I may be considered a living dead, but I'm not completely dead yet." "All right then." Chu Kuangren did not mind and kept the bottle filled with innate ferocious qi into his yin and yang ring. The weakened white-robed general walked out of the dungeon, picked up the mask on the ground and put it back on. Chu Kuangren had a good look at the white-robed general's face. It was a very delicate face that did not look like a general who had conquered the battlefield at all. "Let's go," Chu Kuangren said and left the dungeon with his people. Not long after Chu Kuangren and his people left, a large group of people returned to the palace. Among them was one of the ancient battlefield's 3 kings, giant tormented sage ruler. The leader was a young man in black armor. His face was filled with killing intent, but there was a hint of excitement on his face at the moment. "I've finally collected enough innate ferocious qi. Now I can raise my innate ferocious foundation level to its peak. When I ascend to become a sage, my foundation level will at least be a 5th-tier sage, and I'll be the innate ferocious sage who specializes in combat." The black-armored young man, Daoist Sha, murmured. "Wait a minute, something's not right." Suddenly, giant tormented sage ruler noticed that something was wrong. In the past, there were tormented souls patrolling around the Blood Fiend Palace, but it was eerily quiet today. "Where's everyone? And why isn't Blood Fiend Sage Ruler coming out to welcome us? Quick, let's go in and have a look." Giant tormented Sage Ruler hurriedly led his people into the palace. However, they did not see a single tormented soul along the way. Moreover, the palace was filled with signs of battle. It was obvious that a fierce battle had taken place here. Who was it? Who could fight against the Blood Fiend Sage Ruler to such an extent? Not good. The black-armored young man's expression changed as he thought of something. He rushed into the palace and arrived at the place where the altar was placed. However, he found that it was already empty. His face was a mix of green and red, his chest was heaving up and down, and his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. "Find it. Find me the innate ferocious altar." Giant tormented sage ruler and the others walked up to him. "It's not just the innate ferocious altar. The white-robed general has disappeared too. There's no trace of the Blood Fiend Sage Ruler at the scene, so I'm guessing that he's probably dead. As far as I know, no tormented soul in the ancient battlefield has such abilities. Who could it be?" Giant tormented sage ruler said with an ugly expression. "No matter who it is, I'll tear them to pieces for daring to touch my innate ferocious altar." The black-armored young man gritted his teeth and said, the innate ferocious altar had taken him 3 whole years to build. It contained all of the innate ferocious qi that he had collected over the past 3 years. It was an important means for him to improve his foundation and ascend into a sage. Yet now it had been taken away by someone else. How could he accept that this was related to one's foundation and ascension into a sage? 3 years. 3 whole years. He did not have the time to spend another 3 years planning. In a battle of the Emperor's Path, one step behind would always mean falling behind. Now that Xiao Jingchen has ascended into a sage, I can't afford to hesitate any longer. I must ascend into a sage as soon as possible. The innate ferocious altar cannot be lost. Send out the order to seal off the entire ancient battlefield. Find the altar. Yes. As the orders were passed down, all the tormented souls who had gained sentience in the ancient battlefield swarmed out and searched for Chu Kuangren and the others. Chapter 459. Somewhere in the ancient battlefield, Chu Kuangren brought the white-robed general into a cave. Along the way, they encountered many tormented souls. All of them were sent by Daoist Sha and Giant Tormented Sage King to chase after them. They were all taken care of by Chu Kuangren. I need to think of a way to remove this restriction of yours first. Chu Kuangren looked at the white-robed general in front of him and said, The baleful aura on the other party's body was connected to the earthen chi of the ancient battlefield. It was like an invisible shackle that firmly trapped the other party in the ancient battlefield. If he wanted to leave, he had to first undo the restrictions on the white-robed general. The restriction of the ancient battlefield has existed for a very long time. No one has ever been able to break it. Why don't you leave first? The white-robed general said. He did not want to implicate Chu Kuangren and Xiaoyu because of him. Since you're already here, how can you just leave like this? Don't you want to see the offspring of you and the princess with your own eyes? Hearing this, a glimmer of hope appeared in the white-robed general's eyes. He then bitterly smiled. I want to, but it's useless. Even if I can leave the ancient battlefield, my body is heavily injured and my killing intent is constantly leaking out. I probably won't be able to live for long. I'll think of something after we get out, Chu Kuangren said calmly. Things had to be dealt with one by one, so the first thing he needed to do now was to remove the ancient battlefield's restrictions for white-robed general. He pondered. The core area of the ancient battlefield was formed by countless saints fighting in a formation over tens of thousands of years. The earth energy here was special, and it was very likely that it had something to do with that formation. A formation? I wonder if this rune is useful, Chu Kuangren muttered as he activated his spiritual thought. The spiritual power around him converged and formed a mysterious rune on his palm. A strange wave of energy rippled out. He placed the runes on the white-robed general's body. Rune of Destruction. This was a sacred rune recorded in the Mystic Origin Imperial Scripture. It was used to counteract negative influences from the outside world. This talisman was extremely mysterious, but it was unclear what it was used for. Chu Kuangren did not know what the rune was used for, but he could only give it a try since the white-robed general was in such a situation. After a while, the white-robed general's body suddenly shook. He said in surprise, I feel like the ancient battlefield's restriction on me is weakening. Oh, it works. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and condensed another destruction talisman. Gradually, the white-robed general sensed that the ancient battlefield's restraints on him were almost non-existent. He felt indescribably relaxed. Just as the white-robed general was released from his restraints, Daoist Sha, giant tormented Sage King, and the others had already set up an inescapable trap outside the cave. This was the ancient battlefield's core area, the turf of the tormented souls. As long as they searched carefully, it would not be difficult for them to locate Chu Kuangren. How dare you take away the innate ferocious sacrificial altar? I'll teach you a lesson. Looking at the cave, Daoist Sha's eyes flickered with coldness. Inside the cave, as Chu Kuangren untied white-robed general, he listened to him talk about the changes that had taken place in the ancient battlefield over the past few years. As it turned out, 3 years ago, a Daoist Sha suddenly appeared in the ancient battlefield. He used his powerful strength to conquer the entire ancient battlefield's core zone. He subdued Giant Torment Sage King and Blood Fury Sage King and made them work for him. For the past 3 years, Daoist Sha had been collecting innate ferocious chi to build an innate ferocious sacrificial altar. He wanted to use it to improve his foundation. As one of the 3 kings, the white-robed general had a large amount of innate ferocious chi on him. Since he did not submit to Daoist Sha, he became their primary target. Although the white-robed general had narrowly escaped death several times with his cultivation as a saint ruler, he was still captured a few months ago. That was how Chu Kuangren broke into the palace to rescue him. Daoist Sha. This name sounds familiar. Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin and said, Master, the 9 Heavens Sky Pride ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard is this Daoist Sha. At that moment Lan Yu reminded him. They had been to the Divine Predictor Pavilion and seen the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Although they did not deliberately memorize the names on it, they still had some impression of it. No wonder he could conquer the entire ancient battlefield. He's a top-notch Sky Pride from the 9 Heavens, Chu Kuangren murmured. His interest was piqued as he looked outside the cave. This is my first time dealing with someone from the 9 Heavens. I wonder how strong he is. He's very strong. Most sage rulers are no match for him, the white-robed general said in a serious tone. Coupled with Giant Tormented Sage King and the other tormented souls, this battle will be very difficult. He stood up and looked outside the cave. He could already feel the tormented souls gathering outside. "Do you have any weapons?" the white-robed general asked. Apart from this mask, everything else that he had on him had been taken away, including his old weapons. "You're a spear user, right? That's great. I killed Blood Fury Sage Ruler and he dropped one." Chu Kuangren took out the blood-colored spear that Blood Fury Sage Ruler used. It was a top-notch Sage Ruler weapon. "Thank you." The white-robed general took the spear. The moment he held it, a familiar cold ferocious chi swept out from his body. Although he was extremely weak, he was still the same invincible white-robed general who dominated the battlefield with a spear in his hand. "Lan Yu, keep an eye on him," Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu. No matter how fierce the white-robed general's aura was, it could not hide the fact that he was heavily injured. He did not want to be the one collecting his opponent's corpse. The three of them walked out of the cave. What awaited them was a dense horde of tormented army. The leader of the tormented army was clad in black armor. His pitch-black eyes stared at Chu Kuangren with a cold murderous intent. Chu Kuangren was also looking at him with his eye of revelation activated. Daoist Sha from the tormented tribe, an ancient orthodoxy of the nine heavens. His physique is the infallible tormented physique. He cultivates the innate ferocious emperor scripture and is an honorable supreme. Chu Kuangren was quite surprised. He did not expect his opponent to also have the infallible tormented physique and cultivate an emperor scripture that was related to ferocious chi. No wonder he could improve his foundation by absorbing innate ferocious chi. "Thief, hand over the innate ferocious altar, and I'll grant you a quick death," Daoist Sha said coldly. However, what greeted him was the thousands of runic swords that Chu Kuangren formed with a raise of his hand. The runic sword chi poured out like a torrent and wreaked havoc between the heavens and the earth. Even the sage-level tormented army could not withstand such power. The thousands of runic swords tore open a huge gap in the tormented army that numbered in the tens of thousands. The unparalleled power made the tormented army's pupils dilate. No wonder Blood Fury Sage Ruler was defeated by him. This person's combat strength is no weaker than a sage ruler's. Giant Tormented Sage Ruler and the others looked extremely solemn, especially Giant Tormented Sage Ruler, who recognized Chu Kuangren the moment he saw him. Chu Kuangren had come to the ancient battlefield a few years ago, but he could not even withstand a single finger of his. However, he could now kill a sage ruler. Chu Kuangren's speed of improvement shocked him. "Let's go," Chu Kuangren said. He took a step forward and countless runic swords shuttled back and forth around him, killing every tormented soul that got close to him. The white-robed general and Lan Yu followed closely behind. Lan Yu immediately opened the black barrier to block all the tormented souls' attacks, allowing Chu Kuangren to focus on opening a path with his runic sword chi. Chapter 460. The runic sword chi shuttled back and forth among the tormented souls. One by one, the tormented souls were easily killed and pulverized. None of them could get within 3 feet of Chu Kuangren, and none of them could break through the black gauze barrier. Heavenly ferocious Dharma idol form. At this moment, a terrifying murderous aura surged between heaven and earth. This ferocious aura was surging and turned into a heaven ferocious avatar that was 100 feet tall. It was the avatar that Daoist Sha had conjured. This avatar is even more powerful than the divine ferocious avatar that Chu Kuangren conjured 3 years ago. Its terrifying aura is earth-shattering. Is this the absolute ferocious Dharma form? Furthermore, he has cultivated the Heaven Fiend Imperial Sutra. Interesting. Although it was stronger than his divine ferocious avatar, Chu Kuangren did not really care. After all, the infallible tormented physique was just one of his many techniques. It would not affect him much even if he gave up on it. "Stay here." Daoist Sha let out a furious roar as he activated his heavenly ferocious Dharma idol and punched out with all his might. A huge stretch of the void shook like waves in the sea. Chu Kuangren condensed lines of sage-grade runes and combined them with his own sword-based Daoist rhyme, turning them into an incredibly powerful giant sword that slashed out. There was a loud explosion, and the terrifying impact sent all the tormented souls in the surroundings flying. Even Giant Tormented Sage Ruler could not help but fall back a few feet. What a terrifying rune energy! Daoist Sha was blasted a few hundred meters away by the impact of the runic energy and crashed into a mountain peak. He looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. The other party had the protection of the black veil, and the impact was disintegrated bit by bit. Seeing this, Daoist Sha took out a palm-sized bell made of an unknown material. Terrifying Daoist rhymes circulated around the bell. To be able to make me use the heavenly fiend bell, you should be honored. Daoist Sha grunted coldly and was about to make his move. However, at that moment, Chu Kuangren suddenly pointed towards the sky from afar. What did that mean? Daoist Sha was confused. Then, he looked up into the sky, and his pupils shrank. A gigantic silver-white rune enveloped the entire tormented army, and like a meteor crashing into the ground, it smashed into the army. The surrounding space seemed to have turned into a quagmire, making it difficult for everyone to move. Even Daoist Sha could feel waves of pressure. These are spatial runes. He can actually condense spatial runes of this scale. Daoist Sha was astonished. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren had used the spatial solidification rune to imprison the tormented soul. He did not stay for long and quickly left with Lan Yu and White Robe General. Although the effect of the congealed talisman was strong, Daoist Sha wasn't completely confined. He was still able to fight under the effect of the congealed talisman. Moreover, his opponent had a powerful weapon in his hand. A prolonged battle wouldn't be beneficial. He decided to leave with the White Robe General first. You want to leave? Dream on. Daoist Sha activated his heavenly ferocious Dharma idol and broke free from the restraints of the Ning talisman. However, just as he was about to give chase, dozens of talisman swords flew over from the horizon. Each of these runic swords possessed the strength to kill a sage. Even Daoist Sha had to focus and defend against them. By then, Chu Kuangren and the others had already left. When the effect of the freeze talisman wore off, everyone had already disappeared. Daoist Sha was furious. Chase them! He roared and led the tormented souls to give chase. However, after a few hundred meters, mysterious runes suddenly appeared in the void and transformed into lightning, wind, frost, and fire rocks. All sorts of natural energies filled the air and crashed into the tormented army. Although the power of these runes was not as strong as the runic swords that Chu Kuangren had condensed, their power was not to be underestimated. Moreover, there were so many of them that the tormented army was thrown into confusion and many of them were injured. D****. Daoist Sha was so angry that his mouth twitched. Master Daoist Sha, we don't know how many more rune traps that guy has set along the way. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up to him. Giant tormented sage ruler sighed helplessly. Daoist Sha stared ahead coldly, but he knew that what giant tormented sage ruler said made sense. They might not be able to catch up to him anymore. However, the innate ferocious altar was the key to improving his foundation. And now it was gone. Even without the innate ferocious altar, I must become a sage as soon as possible. I can't fall behind Xiao Jingchen by too much. Now that things have come to this, that's the only way. Daoist Sha's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. Don't worry, Master Daoist. We can find more innate ferocious qi. We're willing to go through fire and water for Master Daoist. Giant tormented sage ruler took the opportunity to express his loyalty. He knew that Daoist Sha came from an extremely powerful force. If he could befriend Daoist Sha, he might even have a chance to leave this ancient battlefield and follow Daoist Sha to a wider world. Is that so? I'm very pleased that you're so loyal. If that's the case, are you willing to die for me? Daoist Sha said indifferently. Giant tormented sage ruler and the others were shocked when they heard that. They could not figure out what Daoist Sha meant. However, at that moment, Daoist Sha took out the black bell and activated it with his spiritual power. The bell expanded with the wind and became extremely huge. Following that, a series of bell chimes erupted from the bell. Terrifying ferocious qi swept in all directions and attacked the tormented souls. Even a powerhouse like giant tormented sage ruler could not help but feel his body cracking under the ringing of the bell. Master Daoist Sha, what are you doing? The tormented souls were extremely terrified. Didn't you say that you're willing to go through fire and water for me? Since the innate ferocious altar is gone, I'll have to use your ferocious qi to improve my foundation. What's wrong? Are you going to go back on your words? Daoist Sha did not hold back as he activated the bell with all his might. The sonorous sound waves mixed with ferocious qi spread out, crushing the tormented souls one by one. Even giant tormented sage ruler was no exception. They wanted to escape, but they could not escape from the range of the sonorous sound waves. Not long after, all the tormented souls were dead, leaving only surges of innate ferocious qi where they stood. Daoist Sha absorbed the innate ferocious qi into his body, but he did not look happy at all. This level of innate ferocious qi is far inferior to the innate ferocious altar, but this is the best I can do. D****. Thief, once I become a sage, I'll find out who you are and cut you into 1,000 pieces. There was no one else in the entire firmament star who was as proficient in runes as Chu Kuangren. He believed that he could find out who he was if he asked around. When that time came, he would definitely make him pay. Far away, Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, and the white-robed general had successfully walked out of the ancient battlefield's core area. On top of the elusive mirage, Chu Kuangren opened his eyes. This Daoist Sha is quite ruthless. His spiritual thought had just returned from the ancient battlefield, and he had witnessed the scene of Daoist Sha slaughtering the tormented souls. Of course, he had also heard that Daoist Sha wanted to seek revenge on him. However, he did not care much about that. Revenge? There were countless people in this world who wanted his life and revenge. It did not matter if Daoist Sha was dead or alive. Next, I should think of a way to heal the white-robed general's injuries. Besides, the seal within my body is about to be released, Chu Kuangren murmured. Chapter 461. Inside the elusive mirage, Chu Kuangren was observing the white-robed general's injuries. Even though he had broken free, the ferocious qi on his body was still fading away. Although the speed was much slower, it was still fading away. White-robed general, one of the ancient battlefield's 3 kings, Chu Kuangren used his eye of revelation to check on the white-robed general's condition. His internal foundation has been damaged, and his innate ferocious qi is fading away. His physical body is slowly fading away. If there's no remedy, he'll probably die in 7 days. The information from the eye of revelation made Chu Kuangren frown. 7 days. The white-robed general only had 7 days left to live? What should he do? Chu Kuangren pondered. Fellow Daoist Chu, I know my situation best. Before I die, I would like to see my descendants. Is that possible? The white-robed general said calmly. It was as if he did not care about his impending death. To him, he was already a dead man. It was the princess of the Lu kingdom who used a secret technique to prolong his life, allowing him to live on in this world. His only wish now was to see his descendants. They were his and her descendants. It's not that you can't see them, but I don't think it's a good idea for you to meet them in this state. Chu Kuangren laughed. I'll just take a look at them. Stop teasing me. We'll talk about it when my body recovers. My body is like a candle in the wind. There's no way I can save it, the white-robed general said with a bitter smile. If I say you can, then you can, Chu Kuangren said calmly. He then took out a black altar with surges of innate ferocious qi circling around it. Let's take a gamble. This innate ferocious altar was used by Daoist Sha to improve his foundation, and it just so happened that your foundation was destroyed. Perhaps this item will be useful to you. No matter how bad the situation is, it won't be worse than now, Chu Kuangren said. The white-robed general hesitated for a while. He looked at the innate ferocious altar and took a deep breath. All right, let's give it a try. He was a decisive general. Since he had decided to give it a try, he immediately got up and walked towards the innate ferocious altar. The 4 black stone pillars on the altar seemed to have sensed something. They trembled and emitted a faint black light. Then, the innate ferocious qi within the altar gushed towards the white-robed general and seeped into his limbs. Even the white-robed general couldn't help but groan in pain. Innumerable amounts of innate ferocious qi tunneled into his body, transforming his body and reshaping his foundation. This method of transformation was extremely barbaric, and the white-robed general did not know how to control it. He could only let the innate ferocious qi run amok in his body like wild horses, wreaking havoc everywhere. Do I need to stop? Chu Kuangren asked calmly. He was already prepared to use his mind power to pull his opponent down from the altar. The white-robed general extended his hand and said, "There's no need for that. Although this innate ferocious energy is violent, it's useful." Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. White-robed general recovering foundation. Modifying constitution. Current progress, 1%. Looks like my luck is pretty good. I made the right bet. Chu Kuangren smiled. From the looks of it, it would take at least half a month for the white-robed general to completely recover. In other words, he would have to endure the pain of being transformed for half a month. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to endure it. However, when Chu Kuangren saw the determined look on the white-robed general's face, he knew that time was not an issue at all. The white-robed general's willpower was not something an ordinary cultivator could compare to. "I hope that when we meet again in half a month, you'll be reborn," Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then he activated the elusive mirage's defensive force field and set up several runic seals to hide the entire elusive mirage in the void. "Next, I'll enter the final stage of unsealing," Chu Kuangren murmured. He handed the elusive mirage over to Lan Yu and walked into one of the lofts within the elusive mirage. He then went into closed-door meditation to prepare to unseal it. During this period, the firmament star was extremely lively. Ever since Xiao Jingqian became a sage, the sky prides of the 9 heavens began to ascend one by one as if they had an agreement. Moreover, the commotion caused by their ascension was not small at all. Everyone's ascension into a sage was extremely powerful. There were even 2 7-colored heavenly tribulations like Xiao Jingqian that shocked half of the firmament star. Those 2 were Wang Tianting, who was ranked 4th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, and Zhan Hongying, who had returned to 2nd place after becoming a sage. Both of them were rare sky prides throughout history. Most of their ascension into sages were 7-colored heavenly tribulations, which was no weaker than Xiao Jingqian's. Besides those 3, there were a few other sky prides whose ascension into sages also received a lot of attention. Among them Daoist Sha, who was ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, ascended into a sage using ferocious qi in the ancient battlefield. Although his heavenly tribulations were not 7-colored heavenly tribulations, they were not any weaker than the latter. There were also some boundary sages who had already ascended into the sage realm. Not to be outdone, they also used various opportunities of fortune to break through to the sage realm. As more and more sky prides and sages appeared, the older generation of sages were reduced to mere foils. They were used as tools for the sky prides to challenge and make a name for themselves. Today, another hot topic appeared on the firmament star. The heavenly golden palace. A loud voice suddenly erupted from a mountain peak. "I, Xiao Jingqian, wish to challenge Chu Kuangren to a duel at the Skyraiser Mountain in 3 days. I hope Chu Kuangren will be punctual." The cultivators who heard the voice were shocked and quickly spread the news. Soon everyone in the firmament star knew about it. Everyone was shocked. Xiao Jingqian wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren. He wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren, who had single-handedly destroyed the craggy ocean tower. This battle attracted the attention of many great ones. Xiao Jingqian's heavenly golden imperial physique is many times stronger than Xiao Lintian's. Moreover, he has ascended into a sage through the 7-colored heavenly tribulations. Perhaps he might stand a chance against Chu Kuangren. That's right. Since Chu Kuangren has been sealed by the heavenly punishment seal, he can only use his runic techniques. It seems like Xiao Jingqian still has a high chance of winning. Interesting. What about Chu Kuangren? What's his response? Just when everyone was excited about Xiao Jingqian's challenge to Chu Kuangren, another sky pride spoke. This time it was Daoist Sha from the ancient battlefield. Similarly, he also wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren. Everyone was extremely shocked. It was understandable for Xiao Jingqian to challenge Chu Kuangren. After all, he was an ancient sky pride from the Heavenly Golden Palace, and the Heavenly Golden Palace had a deep grudge against Chu Kuangren. Hence, it was reasonable for him to challenge Chu Kuangren. Why did Daoist Sha want to challenge Chu Kuangren? Inside the ancient battlefield, Daoist Sha sat in one of the palaces with deep hatred in his eyes. Compared to Xiao Jingqian, he hated Chu Kuangren even more. He had investigated and found out that it was Chu Kuangren who had stolen the innate ferocious altar, causing his foundation level to be unable to reach its peak. Initially, he had the chance to establish a 7th grade Sage Foundation level. However, because of Chu Kuangren, he only managed to achieve a 5th grade Sage Foundation level. Although they were only 2 grades apart, their potential, talent, and strength were worlds apart. How could Taoist Sha not hate Chu Kuangren? He hated him to the core. He could not wait to skin Chu Kuangren alive and eat him alive. Chapter 462. News of Xiao Jingchen and Taoist Sha challenging Chu Kuangren had spread throughout the entire firmament star, and every cultivator was paying close attention to this matter. Everyone was also waiting for Chu Kuangren's response. However, for 3 consecutive days, even after the time limit for the battle had passed, there was still no response from Chu Kuangren, let alone any sign of him. All the Great Ones were looking for Chu Kuangren. Their spiritual thoughts scanned the entire firmament star but to no avail. With Chu Kuangren's abilities, it was too easy for him to hide. As long as he willed it, no one could find him. Hide! This statement caused all the cultivators to be extremely shocked. Chu Kuangren knew how to hide. Oh God! What the hell? That was Chu Kuangren, the #1 lunatic in history. How could a lunatic like him know how to hide? Most of them believed that he was delayed by something. However, the Heavenly Golden Palace disciples did not think so. To them, Chu Kuangren was afraid of Xiao Jingchen and did not dare to show up. Chu Kuangren? That's all he's got. Ha! He can only hide in his shell in front of the young master. Chu Kuangren was terrifying. This was something that everyone acknowledged. Even the people from the Heavenly Golden Palace knew about it. That was also the reason why they were so frustrated by Chu Kuangren. Now they finally had a chance to turn the tables. It did not matter why Chu Kuangren did not show up. What was important was that Xiao Jingchen had challenged Chu Kuangren, and he did not show up. That was enough for them to show off. Under the Heavenly Golden Palace's propaganda, Chu Kuangren became a coward who did not dare to show up because he was afraid of Xiao Jingchen. His reputation as a madman was ruined. It was not just the Heavenly Golden Palace. The disciples of Ethereal Rapture, Acheron Manor, Sacred Palace of Death, and the Bottomless Chasm who had a grudge against Chu Kuangren were also using this opportunity to belittle Chu Kuangren and ruin his reputation. What Chu Kuangren? He's just a coward who doesn't even dare to accept a challenge. Seems like he's really fallen. That's right. It's the era of Xiao Jingchen and the others now. #1 on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard? What a joke. The few Orthodoxy's disciples continued to slander Chu Kuangren. First, there were some who didn't believe it. However, the slanderous voices grew louder and louder. Chu Kuangren did not appear at all, nor did he respond. It was as if he had really gone into hiding, as the others had said. As time passed, those who believed in Chu Kuangren gradually wavered. Could it be that Chu Kuangren was truly afraid? It was no wonder. After all, Xiao Jingchen's Sage Ascension tribulation was earth-shattering, and Chu Kuangren himself had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal. It was very likely that he would not be a match for Xiao Jingchen. It made sense that the other party did not dare to fight. As time went by, Chu Kuangren seemed to have solidified his reputation as a coward. The title of Kuangren is extremely disappointing. The Heavenly Golden Palace's Xiao Jingchen spread the news that Chu Kuangren had failed to keep his appointment, causing his reputation to rise once again. Compared to Xiao Jingchen, Taoist Sha's reaction was much more intense. He immediately declared that if Chu Kuangren did not show up, he would kill his way into the Black Heaven sect and slaughter the entire sect. 2 days after the announcement, there was still no response. Chu Kuangren, if that's the case, then don't blame me for this. Inside the ancient battlefield, Taoist Sha snorted and leaped into the sky. Not long after, he appeared outside the Black Heaven sect's great formation. Many people in the firmament star had noticed his actions. They knew that he was here to cause trouble for the Black Heaven sect today. This Taoist Sha really is a man of his word. He said he would destroy the Black Heaven sect and he did it just like that. I wonder if he can break the formation? I don't think so. This formation is not that easy to break. The crowd discussed and paid attention to Taoist Sha. At that moment, Taoist Sha was standing outside the astonishing cloud of C's formation with ferocious qi swirling around his body. He looked like a demon that had just walked out of a Shura battlefield. You think you can stop me with a mere formation? What a joke! Daoist Shah dashed into the astonishing cloud of C's formation. The astonishing cloud of C's formation blocked everyone's spiritual thoughts, so they could barely sense the powerful energy fluctuations coming from within. After a day and a night, Daoist Shah walked out of the great formation with a gloomy expression. His aura was weak and his hair was messy. Although he did not suffer any obvious injuries, he still looked like a mess. Behind him, the astonishing cloud of C's formation was still operating. Evidently, he had failed to break the formation. The crowd fell silent. Although they were surprised by the result, they felt that it was reasonable. After all, this great formation had killed countless enemies 3 years ago. It was known as the number 1 formation in Firmament Star. Even a sage ruler would not dare to enter it. Daoist Shah's failure did not shock them too much. **M**. I can't believe that the Black Heaven sect has such a formation. Countless formations are interconnected and impossible to defend against. And that Cloud Dragon's combat strength is on par with mine. If I didn't use the innate ferocious bell at the end, I wouldn't have been able to walk out of this formation unscathed. Daoist Shah turned to look at the astonishing cloud of C's formation behind him with a complicated look in his eyes. Even in the 9 heavens, it's rare to see a formation like this. Where did Chu Kuangren get it from? **M**. This formation is too difficult to break. I'll have to think of another way. News of Daoist Shah's failure to break the formation had